All right, good afternoon, everyone. It is 4 o'clock. I'm going to call to order the Board of Commissioners for the Committee of the Whole here on March 4th, 2025. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner DeLue,
Here.
Commissioner Gisler,
Here.
Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler,
Here.
Commissioner Mazer,
Here.
Commissioner Morales,
Present.
Commissioner Ray,
Present.
Chair Strebs,
Here.
Vice Chair Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Wheeler.
Here.
You have 9 present.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Clerk. This time we'll open up the opportunity for public comment. This is where anyone may address the board on any topic. If you'd like to address the board, please come up to the podium, tell us your name and where you're from. We request you limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Time is displayed, and once your 3 minutes are up, your time to speak is finished. It's time to provide feedback and input in a professional and respectful manner. And there I see our first guest. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, Vice Chair Pro Tem, Vice Chair, Board of Commissioners. My name is Mary Balkema, and I am your Housing Director. And I'd like to say thank you. We closed on the hotel a few minutes ago. I'd like to say thank you to our chair and to administration and our legal staff, who was very gracious in their help. And so we are very excited about owning a hotel, 80 rooms, and hopefully early spring or early summer, it will be opening and it will be fully functional to receive families. So we are very excited about it. And again, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Director. Congratulations. Are there any other members of the public wishing to address the board? Please feel free to come forward. You're going to press the button with the little person on it at the podium. There you go.
Good afternoon. My name is Lindsay Randolph, and I'm here representing the Delta Hotel by Marriott in Oshtemo Township. I'm excited to stand before you and share a vision that has the power to elevate Kalamazoo as a premier sports destination while strengthening our local hospitality industry. As someone invested in our community, I have seen firsthand how sports tourism drives economic growth. When teams, leagues, and athletic organizations choose Kalamazoo, they bring more than just competition. They bring energy, excitement, and a tremendous economic impact. Our restaurants are filled with families, our shops see new customers, and a personal favorite, hotels thrive. So we're excited for that. This is why an indoor youth sports facility specifically designed to attract basketball and volleyball tournaments would be a game changer for our market. This isn't just about bringing weekend tournaments, it's about creating a year-round attraction that keeps our local businesses busy, even in traditionally slow seasons. More visitors mean more revenue, more job opportunities, and a stronger foundation for Kalamazoo's economic future. We recognize the importance of financial investment in making this vision a reality. That's why I'm here representing our ownership group to firmly support the proposed 4% incremental assessment. This initiative is a strategic step towards securing the resources needed to bring this facility to life while ensuring that Kalamazoo remains competitive with other markets. We are very fortunate at the Delta to have a great working relationship with Discover Kalamazoo as a committed partner in this effort. Their dedication to promoting our community's unique charm aligns perfectly with this initiative. Together, we can position Kalamazoo as a go-to destination for both sports and leisure, setting us apart from the competition. I think that it is important to recognize that while other communities aspire to move forward with similar projects, Kalamazoo is uniquely positioned. We've got the talent, the passion, and the vision to seize this opportunity. With a sense of urgency and collective commitment, I believe that we can lead the way in sports, tourism, and hospitality for years to come. I just want to thank you all for your time.
Thank you for your comment. We have other members that wish to step forward. Please join us. There you go.
Hi there, my name is Anne Marie. I'm from Next Level Sports Center in Schoolcraft, Michigan. Thank you for having me today. We are also here to support the youth sports facility. I know that we are a sports facility, so it might seem a little bit odd, but I don't see this as competition. I see this as something that will enhance our own programming. There's always a need for the resources that we don't have. So I see this as a huge need, and I do have some partners here that will also speak as both parents and coaches. But the other thing that we see in our volleyball program specifically is that there is a huge need for scholarships for those kids that want to play volleyball. So we offer that, and that's great. But then there's a travel piece of it. They all have to travel somewhere to be able to play. And so we can't help them necessarily with that. And to bring some of that back to our own community would be amazing. So we just see this as kind of a partnership with Discover Kalamazoo and the township of Kalamazoo. And we think that it will benefit all. Hand it to you.
Hi, I'm Katrina Miller. I'm the athletic director at the Dome. So everything Anne Marie said is spot on, but also we have a lot of multi-sport athletes now, and doing a bunch of different sports at once is getting harder and harder financially on the families and time-wise on the students, the athletes. So something here would be amazing to give these kids the opportunity to play multi-sports, not having to travel across the country. I mean, we have kids that are going to Tennessee and to Kentucky and Wisconsin. And so, first of all, we get to bring all those kids here from all those states. And then we have the opportunity for our kids to stay here a little bit closer to home, help out the families a little bit more than what we already are, just like Anne Marie said. So, and we have some amazing athletes here that want to talk as well and tell you their opinion on why they would like to have some sports
Great.
facilities here. So this is my daughter, Alexis.
Welcome,
She's only
Alexis.
12, so bear with her.
Welcome, Alexis. You're welcome here. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Alexis, and I just like being an athlete and having to travel like just even 45 minutes or an hour away just to play a sport or maybe even 2 games of volleyball is just like a lot when you're 12. So being able to have a facility here in Kalamazoo where it's close to us, and I mean, I don't have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning because it's 2 hours away. Would just be really awesome for me and my team and other athletes as well. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Carrington. I'm also one of the athletes for Coach Katrina's team. I would think it would be beneficial to have a facility here because as Alexis said, waking up at 5 a.m. very draining for like 12, 13-year-olds having to wake up, go play, go back home. Also, when tournaments go longer, you get home usually at 12 or like 11 at night and you need to go to bed and get up to school for the next morning. That's also very draining. And most kids usually skip school on Mondays, which is not very beneficial for educations. But if we had a facility in Kalamazoo, that could benefit us because we would get home at a reasonable time and still be able to get up and like go to school, go to other sports, and still process. Thank you for your time.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
one more
sharing.
for you.
Yep, come on ahead.
Hi, I'm Brooklyn, and I also play volleyball here, but I think it would be really good to have a facility here because then we, like what they both said, we didn't have to wake up really early, and all of the like families could be better like with timing and coming to everybody else's games and just having the school time and like being less travel time between them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies. Appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome. Come forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Matt Liu. So my daughter is Maya. She's an 8th grader in Schoolcraft, and she plays for the Next Level program as well. So obviously we have some self-serving reasons that we think a youth facility in Kalamazoo would be really good. But just to kind of give you a feel from a parent's perspective, so Maya's on the 14U national travel team. So we will be going down to Kentucky this weekend. A couple weekends after that, we'll be in Cedar Point. Up to this point, though, we've been up in Muskegon every other weekend. We've been in Grand Rapids quite a few times, and we've been in Indiana 2 weekends ago. And when we go to these tournaments, a lot of times we're playing teams from Kalamazoo, and we're traveling all over to do that. So it would be really nice to have a facility down here in Kalamazoo that we could to use for some of those events. So to get away from kind of the self-serving piece of that, when we go to these events, you know, the MVA facilities up in Grand Rapids are beautiful and they are packed to the seams, right? So, I mean, these events draw in all kinds of people. So I think Kalamazoo is a bit behind the curve in what some of these facilities have to offer. I mean, I think the Dome has done a really good job in starting that step in the right direction, but we're still behind the curve in, you know, the Grand Rapids is, the Lansings, the LaPorte, Indiana's where we were. I mean, those facilities are massive and they're in use all the time. And I mean, that brings in a ton of people for the weekends. There's always downtime between games, so you're trying to find something to do to keep the kids occupied. And I think there's really a good opportunity for really greater Southwest Michigan to tap into some of those visitors that are going all over, you know, to Grand Rapids, down to Indiana, to bring them here for some tournaments and some weekends and reap some of that benefit. So I appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. You got to push the button with the little person on it. There we go. Welcome to you. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Nikki Hackworth. I am not only a coach for Next Level Volleyball, but I'm also a parent. My daughter plays on the 18U team, and she's been an athlete with the Next Level program for the past 5 years. So I can give you, as a coach, not only as a coach, but a parent perspective. Almost every weekend we're traveling for volleyball. It is not uncommon on a normal tournament weekend to spend upwards of $500 to $700 traveling to tournaments in Milwaukee or Cedar Point, even Indiana, because a lot of times I'm bringing younger brother with me, and we got to keep him busy, and we're going out to dinner. So I think having a space here to host tournaments and bring families to our community, not only will it be beneficial for the people of our community, but it will be beneficial for the businesses, the local restaurants, the local shops. I feel that they will feel economic growth from bringing these tournaments to this space. So thank you so much for your time today.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Welcome to you.
Welcome.
Where's the person?
Already on. Oh, now you got to do it again. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Corey Person, resident here of Kalamazoo, and I run United Pursuit, which is a youth basketball program here in Kalamazoo County. And one thing that I want to speak to you all today is just the ability to have opportunity. One thing that we have reached here now in Kalamazoo with a lack of facilities for a program like myself who desires to continue to grow, and ultimate goal is to turn no child away. And to give them every possible opportunity at every level. When the program starts to reach their capacity, you now begin to get to the point where you have to turn kids away. And that's an issue that we are dealing with now here in the Kalamazoo area, where programs like maybe Next Level or other, that's volleyball or basketball, that wants to continue to grow and continue to be as inclusive as possible to as many kids as possible and not have to turn anybody away, is running into that issue of being able to find practice time or be able to find enough opportunities to be able to include all the kids in the community. And then when we also speak to, after school opportunities for the kids. I think there's a lot of kids here in the community who are looking for things weekly because it keeps them out of trouble. It keeps them from doing, keeps them from, being out and getting into the wrong thing or hanging out with the wrong crowds. So the more opportunities that we have to present to those kids, I think changes the complete outlook of not only businesses, but we're talking about truly impacting the youth at a young age. The traveling, things like that. Yes, that's going to be a great opportunity for if the facility is built. That would be a great opportunity to be able to bring that business in, bring those opportunities here. But, again, speaking just on a day-to-day aspect, there's so many kids that would like to be able to live out their dreams and be able to get those opportunities and maximize whatever their hopes or dreams are in basketball or volleyball. And I think a facility like this actually allows them to do that if they want to be able to get the extra training, if they're willing to be able to put in the extra time to reach their goals. I think we should be able to go and try to offer them that opportunity. And if it's, a facility has the opportunity to change hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids' lives by giving them that opportunity to be able to do something and really strive and go after their goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment? Wonderful. Welcome.
All right. Good afternoon, commissioners. Lovely to see all of your faces again in the new year. My name is Adrienne Zaya. I am the Director of Public Policy and Advocacy at YWCA Kalamazoo. And on behalf of our organization, I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you for your thoughtful consideration of the proclamation recognizing Black Maternal Health Week. This commitment is a significant step in addressing the pressing health disparities faced by Black women in Kalamazoo County and across Michigan. At YWCA Kalamazoo, our mission is to eliminate racism, empower women, and promote peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. And this proclamation aligns perfectly with our mission as it emphasizes the need for racial equity in healthcare and the improvement of Black women and the empowerment of Black women in our community, particularly as it relates to maternal health. This proclamation's acknowledgement of the disproportionate maternal and infant mortality rates among Black women is both timely and necessary. As we have seen, the systemic inequities that contribute to these disparities require a united and collective effort to overcome. Raising awareness, as the proclamation advocates, is a critical first step in challenging the deeply rooted factors such as implicit bias, access to culturally competent care, and social determinants of health that disproportionately affect Black women. However, awareness alone is not enough. It is imperative that we take action and ensure proper implementation of policies and practices that will lead to measurable improvements. This is why we are so encouraged by the call to action that expands access to quality healthcare, provides better education, and pushes for policy reforms. By actively addressing these disparities, we move closer to a future where all women receive equitable care and respect they deserve during pregnancy, delivery, and postpartum. YWCA Kalamazoo is a proud partner and leader in this important work, and we greatly appreciate the county's role in making a tangible impact in the lives of Black mothers. Your leadership and commitment to these issues are crucial in advancing the health and well-being of our community, and we look forward to continued collaboration that will ensure the success of this work. So once again, we thank you for your time and your dedication and taking action through this proclamation to improve maternal health outcomes for Black women in Kalamazoo County. Together, we can achieve lasting change. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment? Seeing none in chambers. Dina, do we have anyone online?
Here, there are no hands raised.
Right, thank you. All right, at that point, I will end our public comment. We were going to move forward to our interviews with the Kalamazoo County Transportation Authority. Let me just get us oriented here a second. All right, so we have some interviews that we'll conduct today, and then we have some additional communications we've received that we can discuss after that time. So I'll just go first. Again, we have 4 vacancies with which we are making considerations, and I'd invite Mr. Rosine forward. You can join us at the podium. We also have a chair at the dais if you'd rather sit. Sure. Be the same trick over there. There's a button with a little person on it. You will press that to turn your mic off and on. Got it.
Thank you. Excuse me. I just got done with an eye exam, so my vision's a little cloudy right
good.
now. So
Well, better to sit then.
yeah,
Okay,
so
great.
better to sit.
Excellent.
I was going to say that, John.
All right, well, welcome, Mr. Rosine.
Thank you.
I know you've been through this process before, so, I know you, but I'm
Yeah.
Commissioner Strebs, representing District 2. We'll introduce ourselves as we go around, and we're going to conduct a set of interview questions. I got to get myself pulled up. Here we go. All right, I'm going to begin with our first one, okay? And so why are you interested in serving for another term?
Well, I have been on the KCTA and the CCTA for some time now, and you realize how important the work is, and what Metro is as an organization provides to this community. It's mobility, personal mobility in a community. It's an important thread that to keep us as a community. And Metro provides thousands of rides every day to people across this community that principally don't have access to vehicles. Either they don't own a car, they can't drive, they may be a family that only has one, and they need to get to work. And that provides sustenance for families and the community as a whole. And it's important work to be able to do that.
Great, thank you. Would you like to take our second one?
Thank you, Chair. Jeff Hepler, District 7, which is north part of Kalamazoo County.
Yep.
Northeast part. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
My question is number 2. Share what you've learned from working with people of different cultures. Have you received any training in diversity, equity, and inclusion?
The training part, yes. Prior to, I retired from Western Michigan University 5 years ago, and diversity, equity, and inclusion was an important value of the university. And as part of the senior leadership team, we had a number of discussions of how do we promote and how do we support the DEI efforts on our campus. So we understand that's important. I think when you come into the issue, you understand that you don't have the answers to everything. You're constrained by the limits of what your own personal experience is in the world. You have a certain context, a frame of reference that you operate in, and it's limited. You're constrained by that. If you really want to be effective, both individually and as an organization, you want to have as broad a perspective as you can. And that's what I think DEI enables us and allows us to do and keeps us in the forefront that that's important. Because how can I be as effective if I don't know the same context and the frame of reference that someone else operates in and understand their values that they bring to the table? That's the society we live in. We're in a pluralistic society, and that's an important element to help sustain that pluralism.
Thank you.
Hello there, welcome. Monteith Morales, District Number 3. How will you use what you have learned in your work with this advisory board?
What have I learned? I want a couple of things. First, the importance of mobility and personal mobility in a community and what it means. When we look at, as I said earlier, who uses Metro and public transit in our community, it's largely people who do it out of necessity. And that provides freedom to be able to people to interact and to have jobs and the like and contribute in the community. You go to doctor's appointments and other things and to work. The other things I've learned is over time is how complex it is in providing that kind of service in a community. You're operating a rather Sean McBride and the staff at Metro are operating a system that you look at it and you think, well, that's pretty simple, a bus going down a route and coming back. Well, it's not. You're trying to make sure those routes serve the best possible, have the best possible access for the community. How do they all work together? How do you move that and then provide that on a 7-day-a-week basis? It's incredibly complex. We keep running into that when we talk about routes and other issues and how we provide a service that connects different kinds of mobility, whether it's bus services, Metro Connect, that's a door-to-door service, our ride-sharing capability, and the new pilot project that we have, Metro Link. those are probably I think the two things that I've learned the most is most the importance of it and, the complexity of trying to do that.
Hi, I'm Abigail Wheeler. I represent District 4. And my question for you is, during your time on the board, what has the board accomplished and how have you helped?
Okay. I've served on the Kalamazoo County Transportation Authority since I think it's in beginning of its inception. I don't know how many years that is now, but it's been a while. At that time, County Administrator Don Gilmer had recruited me to serve on the board. So that tells you how long my service has been. It goes back a while. In that time, I've served as the vice chair for about 3 years or so, and I served as chair of the authority for 7 years. That's recently been, we have a new chair at the moment. Probably the most important thing that we've done over that time is we hired Sean McBride as our executive director. I chaired the search committee for that effort to find Sean and brought him to Kalamazoo. And that's been probably the best thing that we've done over that period of time. We worked with County Administrator Peter Patani to develop the CCTA and go through the process of transferring Metro from a city of Kalamazoo entity to a county entity. That took some time. We've put together 2 boards, the Kalamazoo County Transportation Authority and the Central County Transportation Authority. We put together a format so they work as actually one. When we started out, we had the two authorities that would meet on 2 separate days and 2 separate times, and that just wasn't very effective when you're really looking at mobility and transportation as a holistic entity. So we put those 2 authorities together and we act as one and operate as one. We have a common agenda. We meet in common. Most times there's times when maybe just the CCTA members vote, and there are other times when only the KCTA members vote. But as a rule, we operate together. I think that's a good accomplishment as well. I've worked on 4 different millage campaigns, and they've all been successful. I think last time was like over 70% approval for our millage, and we'll be having another millage in next year, or excuse me, later this year. Let me see. We went through the pandemic. That I have to give kudos to Sean and the staff at Metro to the way they did that, and our drivers were just exemplary of keeping that service and keeping that mobility as viable as they could. And I think we've recently revamped the organizational structure of how we operate. We went through a period, and as I said, I was chair for 7 years, and that was just too long to be a chair. It was just that's not appropriate. We brought in some outside help. We developed a new organization, how we operate. We have 4 committees, and we have a method of rotating leadership among those committees and among for the chair as well. That has brought more of the members into having a larger share of ownership of the authority and what we do. It's also given us a greater experience and familiarity with the staff at Metro, and that staff to have familiarity with us as a board. I think it's made us much more effective going forward, and I'm proud of that part.
Good evening, Tammy Ray. I represent District 1. What is the greatest strength that you bring to this advisory board?
Probably the same strength that I think every other member of the board brings, and that's a commitment to the community. And that's a good thing to see when you're on a board and everybody's committed. And the sense of leadership. Everybody has taken that mantle on the authorities. And so I think we all bring that together. So I can't say there's anything that I bring in that's any better than what anybody else brings. As I said earlier, we all bring our own contextual reference of where we are and how we and our values and the like. But I think that that all comes together.
All right, sounds good. Do you have any questions for us?
Nope. No, I don't.
No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
all right. Mr. Rosine, thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
Sure, absolutely.
This evening. We appreciate you. Excellent. Okay, we can move forward to our second interview. Mr. Aditya Rama, I don't know if I've said it correctly. You're again welcome to sit or stand if your preference, and welcome to you.
Hello.
Mr. Rama, did I pronounce your name correctly?
You did actually.
Oh, good.
A lot of people call me Adi.
Okay.
It's easier.
Well, welcome to you. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so I'll send us the other way so we all get to do a little something different. But again, you are also a current member, so we're gonna go through the same set of questions that you just heard. So can you express why you're interested for serving another term?
I think the main reason is that I like helping. I think public transportation is very important. I like Kalamazoo, and I think being involved and providing a service like that, public service, is something that I believe strongly in, and I think that's very important that people step up and do that. I also understand the need for public transportation, and I work for Goodwill, and we have a lot of employees and customers and people that need public transportation. It's not an option for people. It's just the only option for some people. And ever since I've been in Kalamazoo, I've worked at Goodwill, so I became very aware of the importance of public transportation in the community.
Good, thank you so much.
Thank you. John Taylor. I represent the western portion of Portage and the little bit of the city of Kalamazoo. Share what you've learned from working with people from different cultures, and have you had training in diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Yes, I have had training in diversity, equity, inclusion. Like I said before, I work at Goodwill. We have an incredibly diverse workforce, and it's a daily thing, just involved with people from all walks of life and in all backgrounds.
Hi, Wendy Mazer, District 8. How will you use what you have learned in your work with this advisory board?
Like I mentioned before, we have a lot of employees that use public transportation because they don't really have an option. And when you look at the ridership on the bus system, that's consistent with a lot of people that use the bus system. They don't really have another option. And before I started with the KCTA, I was aware that we had a lot of riders, but it wasn't until afterwards where everyone knew that I was on the KCTA board, where they would come to me and express their concerns and share with me the importance of public transportation. And I got to hear a lot more after that point in time. I mean, to the point where store managers would introduce me to customers that used the bus every time they came, or bus drivers who would come into stores and were known and would coordinate things for their riders. So that whole ecosystem was something that I became very aware of after the fact. Outside of the normal being familiar with the business aspects that provide me the ability to look at Metro and KCTA and see what best practices are being adhered to and whatnot. I think the people aspect is a lot more important to me.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm John Gisler. I represent 5 of the 15 rural townships in the county. And Mr. Rama, I have to ask you, how did you pronounce your first name? I've been calling you Audie a long time.
Well, most people do. It's Aditya. Aditya. So the
And
D and the T
every vowel gets some
pronounced,
emphasis.
yeah.
Okay,
Aditya.
I'll try to be better. Thank you.
Well, again, it doesn't. I'm so used to Audie, it's completely normal.
Call you anything. It's not late for dinner. During your time on the authority, what's been the advisory authority? What has the advisory authority accomplished, and how did you help?
I've tried to volunteer for as many things as possible. Like I said, I like helping out. I think one of the first things that I remember doing, thinking that hey, this is brand new to me, is helping support the millage planning. So I got to see things and do things that I knew what was happening, but I didn't know how it worked. So I think that was like the first experience that I had. Another cool thing is community outreach. So part of what Metro does is go out to communities that may not be within the CCTA boundary and kind of explain Metro services to them and let them know that we also have Metro Connect and other services that they might utilize countywide. And wherever I've gone to speak, I think that it's been a something that people didn't know of. Now, I mean, some people do, but some people don't, and people always walk away with thinking, hey, you know, Metro is really important to people. Maybe not me, but maybe the elderly in the community, or maybe people with disabilities.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Hi, Mr. Rahman, Dale DeLu, and appreciate your interest in serving again. Can you tell me what is the greatest strength that you bring to this advisory board?
I think personally, I think I have a lot of experience. I've been in leadership for quite a long time in businesses, but I think, I think Greg touched on this, but one of the greatest strengths that I helped bring forward with the rest of the board is reorganizing the committee structure and sort of changing the way the board operates. When I started, I think I was here 7 years ago. I've been with them almost 7 years now, but it functioned quite differently. And I think the current system, which has been a couple of years in the making, is a system that forces collaboration and people to get involved in a way that they normally wouldn't have. And it forces us to have conversations and talk things through at the committee level. And then we take that to the main board. So I can't express how much of an improvement that is. And it also allows us to, for board members that are serving, to rotate in and out of different areas as well. So everyone gets to touch a different part of the responsibility.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for us?
I don't.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rama, for taking the time. We appreciate it greatly. Thank you so much. Okay. Let's see, and next, I believe that we have a candidate that should be joining us online, Alexi Caples. Dina, do we have Alexi?
He is not online, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And then we may or may not have present an additional candidate, Sarah May Harris. Is Sarah present with us, or is she online, Dina?
Chair, she is not online.
Thank you, Dina. I'm not seeing her in chambers. Okay, so at this time, we'll end our interview process. And let me navigate it back a little bit. Okay, so we've received some communication from Metro. So there are a couple of additional incumbents. Just through some miscommunication, their terms had ended and they did not receive a notice to take the opportunity to reapply. And so those are two incumbents, Mr. Paul Eklund and Mr. James Ayers. Now, both of these gentlemen have recently been appointed, but they have been interviewed over a year ago. So it would be sort of our standard practice if we've interviewed within a year. Not to do so again. But I'm open, it's the will of the board if we would like to reopen the opportunity for those incumbents to apply. What are thoughts of the body? Vice Chair Pro Tem? It's too many words.
Too many words. I agree, Chair. Thank you. I guess my question would be not to you, but to Sean, who heads this thing. I guess, have these individuals been, I don't want to say this, to the meetings and participating? How's that?
We do have communication from Mr. McBride that does articulate that they are engaged members and they participate. Sorry, Sean. So with that, I mean, do we want to open the opportunity for them to come forward?
Yeah, I think initially you said we have 4 vacancies.
That's correct.
So having 4 candidates would be ideal. Yes.
Vice Chair.
Yes, I know those 2 candidates. Have interviewed them several times for a lot of different positions. I've got no problem at all reappointing them without an interview myself. They're very active in the process and in their roles in this authority. My question kind of has to do with with the process. How are we informing people that their terms are expiring so that they can reapply? And do we have an ability that people can put their application in and have it stored, or is there only a set window where if they missed the 30 days or 45 days that it's open, that they're no longer eligible? I think we probably as a board need to review some of those policies to make it a more I guess easier for incumbents to reapply and for people in the general public to apply for those boards as well.
Thank you for that feedback, Vice Chair. I do know in this circumstance, my understanding is administration did reach out to Metro and inform them that the incumbents' terms were ending. I'm just not sure if it got conveyed then forward to the incumbents themselves. Commissioner Ray and then Commissioner Morales.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. My question would just be, when we reopen the process, are we opening it for everyone to have the opportunity to apply, not just those incumbents? And excuse me, I do remember those folks because we did interview them for a lot of committees, but we may need to bring them back in for an interview just for process purposes. We just interviewed 2 incumbents today, and I don't want us to be like, oh, well, we don't need to interview those 2, but we're interviewing everybody else. So just for equitable purposes. And then how long are we keeping it open?
Commissioner Morales.
Thank you, Chair. Some of the same sentiments, although I would agree with Commissioner Ray. I know some people haven't come to interviews and we pushed them through, so we need to be consistent on this process moving forward. Number one. Number two, when we're talking about how they apply, I think with our new website, if they just create a username, I wouldn't say keep storing and then go look. And, our team has to look for an application that was sent 2 years ago for something like this, but they can reapply. And I know we've had a couple hiccups with folks not being notified, but to just make sure, and maybe Sean at Metro can verify when he's received that and put that information out, not only on the county, but I don't know if you can provide our link, when these seats are up, to do that as well. But I do want to be transparent about, across the board, regardless of people are our friends or not. If it's the interview process, then we need to go through the interview process.
And I'll just chime in. I think certainly, engaged incumbents are likely to receive reappointment when there's only the set number of vacancies, but the opportunity to have the dialogue with them is also an opportunity to educate the community, to educate the board. It's more equitable where everyone is treated in, a like manner, and it leaves room for other voices to be considered if there are other applicants. So incumbency is valuable, but it's not the end all and be all. So I think one of the things we have to grapple with is elevated by Commissioner Ray is if the standard process is to reopen the application for 30 days. And I would assume though folks, their term is ended, they continue to serve in their position until the vacancy is filled. So we wouldn't be impeding the work of the CCTA or KCTA, and we wouldn't be impeding the 2 current incumbents who had not yet reapplied from participating. I think I had Vice Chair and then Commissioner Gisler.
Yeah, I have absolutely no problem interviewing the people again. I guess my process is I don't believe that 30 days being open is equitable to the community. I think that is a process that weights incumbents, not new people applying, these positions. It just so happens that these incumbents missed that 30-day deadline. But when we have committees that are only open for 30 days, and if you're not aware of when those processes are open and you're not aware that it sets a system that benefits only the people that are in power, only the people that are there. And if we want to look for a system to get new voices and new perspectives onto our boards, we need to be more equitable in how we do that. And we can't have a process open for 30 days that mostly only the incumbents know about. And if you looking through or scrolling through our website and see an authority or board that you want to apply for, and they're not happen to have an incumbent position or somebody that's done in the next 30 days, and you apply and their term's not up for 45 days, and we're not keeping that. I mean, maybe we don't go back 2 years, as Commissioner Morales said, but I do think we need to go back and lengthen that 30-day process to get more perspective from our community.
Commissioner Gisler.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I completely agree that the process needs some work. And maybe we should just sort of start from scratch on that and see where it goes. I do think, though, that the two gentlemen that we interviewed today shouldn't get hung up by the fact that we're messing around with the process. So if it's possible, I'd like to see us approve the appointment, the reappointment of Greg, and I won't even try to pronounce Audie's name right, tonight, and then go for two more in the next part of the process.
Is that a motion, Commissioner Gisler?
I guess it is, yes.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Gisler, supported by Vice Chair Taylor, for the reappointment of Greg Rosine and Aditya Rama to the Metro Authority. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, so we'll follow up with administration for additional refinement on process. We do have to have a cutoff date so that we know when it's time to like move forward with applications. But it may be the process now where applications come in. I know at the Board Appointment Committee, we'll often review applications that have come in within the year. You know, when maybe there's a vacancy that occurs or someone steps down. But when it's sort of the annual or the terms are ending, I'll refine that is the process as well. But okay, so with that, thank you to our community members for their time and interest in the interview process. We'll move next to a review of accounts payable and payroll disbursements with our Finance Director, Ryan Post. Welcome, Director.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair Pro Tem, Board of Commissioners. We have an accounts payable claims list totaling $5,612,416.66 is presented for review. Of this total, the Board of Commissioners asked to approve claims totaling $4,216,365.13. Payroll disbursements totaling $4,334,770.62 are presented for the February 28th elected and general payrolls. With that being said, we welcome any questions from the Board of Commissioners.
Looks like it's an easy evening, so no questions for you, Director.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your effort. Okay. We'll move next to our other items. We're going to begin with the discussion of retirement and pension fund. Oh, yes, thank you. And my apologies. So before we do that, Corporation Counsel had wished to introduce a new member of his team to us. So I will defer to Counsel for that at this time.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, the Corporation Counsel's office is pleased to welcome on staff Lynn Corrigan. She can stand up. She's a longtime Kalamazoo resident, as well as she has served the community in a variety of capacities within the law. One thing that I am excited about is that as we step up our enforcement enforcement of both our animal code and our environmental health code, we'll be able to use Ms. Corrigan's litigation experience for that. So, and if you need anything, please reach out to our office. As we grow, we're looking to turn things over much faster. As that I still owe you the responsible bidders, but it's coming. Thank you, ma'am.
I know your office works very hard and we're excited to see a new member of the team. Thank you, council, for that. Okay, so now I'll move us forward to discussion of the retirement pension fund. Let's see here. Administrator, would you like to begin the dialogue?
Absolutely. So thank you, Chair, Vice Chair Pro Tem, Commissioners and audience. This evening is before you a retirement pension discussion. So we had a number of retirees from our current system advocate for a retiree wage adjustment. And so obviously we will discuss the possibility of increasing retiree pension benefits, an issue that has been raised by these proponents. Our retirement investment committee has analyzed several scenarios that were presented and contemplated by the proponents and or by our board leadership for a potential cost of living adjustment, including a 1% and 1.5% increases for every year that they've been retired since 2001, I believe, and then also contemplated a 1% increase for every 3 years retired. And so each of those options would have an impact on our pension funded ratio and employer contributions. As of the latest valuation, which encompasses the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024, our funded ratio has slightly declined from 109.8% to 108.2% due to an increase in retirements and lump sum payouts. The board will need to weigh the benefits to retirees against the long-term financial sustainability of our pension system. I welcome any, welcome any of your questions as we delve into this discussion.
Thank you, Administrator. I'll just elevate as well. So I have some materials that I shared with board members that were provided by retirees advocating for adjustment to the basically their benefit amount. And I think it's probably worth some ongoing and additional discussion. There's a lot of impacts related to changes in pension benefits. One of the things that you can see in our packet, attachment 1, you can see that there were increases provided from 1972 through the year 2000 on an annual basis, 3% way back in the 70s, and then primarily a 1.5% increase through the year 2000. And then since that time, for the last 25 years, there have been no revisions to retiree benefits. Another attachment, number 2, if you flip a couple of pages forward, this is just an evaluation of the impact of inflation on those benefit levels over that term in which there were no adjustments to the benefits. So you'll see it starts with retirement year of 2001 through 2022. And you can see somebody who retired the first year in which no adjustments were made to pension benefits from then forward, they lost really 73.2% of their buying power. Inflation went up by that amount, according to these advocates during that time. So you can imagine, the impact that has for maybe a retiree on the lower end of our pay scale that might have worked at the county for many years, and now their pension, really its power to sustain their ability to live in a dignified way decreased pretty dramatically over that time. Yeah, so those were some key things I wanted to elevate out of that packet. I encourage all of you to take a more in-depth review of what they provided. Do you have some thoughts that you wanted to share, Vice Chair? I know you've had some ongoing discussions with our advocates here.
Yeah, thank you. I first brought this up a couple of years ago, actually, when it was first brought up to it by a couple of former employees, a couple former sheriffs. And, you know, we went through this, and I guess I am very conflicted on this. One of the crown jewels that we have in Kalamazoo County is a defined benefit plan that is over 100% funded, a public defined benefit plan that is over 100% funded. I say that twice because how rare it is in this country. We looked at changing from a DC plan maybe about 10, 12 years ago, and it was actually more expensive to go to a DC plan to a DB plan because we were so well funded. We've done this by using very conservative assumptions on everything from life expectancy to number of people retired to we've always been very conservative in how we've tried to do the long-term planning of this, and the RIT committee has done a good job of that. That being said, I don't think that we were continually giving benefits increases in the 1970s and 80s, as the chair mentioned, 1.5, 2%. Defined benefit plans are usually, those percentages are negotiated. For instance, the FOP negotiates those increases into their contract. Most of these people on this plan are non-union employees. Not that it matters, but defined benefit plans don't guarantee cost of living increases. And I don't even like the term cost of living increases because we can't afford a true cost of living increase every single year. That would bankrupt. We'd be spending a majority of our county operational dollars on contributions to retirement benefit funds. We've got a couple different proposals here, a few different proposals here. One thing I am not in favor of is a one-time payment. I don't believe that is equitable to people that have retired 1 year ago, to people that have retired 20 years ago. As the chair said, the inflation aspect of it is just far different from people that have retired at different times. I don't believe that we can do a 1.5% every single year going back to when people retired. That's going to cost us over $1 million a year. It's going to lower our fund balance from over 100% funded to under 100% funded. And it's also going to require about a $1.5 million each and every single year during our budget process and employee contributions. I'm saying we can't afford to do that, and the types of things in our community that this board sort of wants and needs for our residents. I think we got in this position because previous boards, myself included, previous administrators, we never brought this up during the budget process. We stopped doing it in 2001, and we never brought it up again. I think that we need to have a policy that at the very least, we look at this every 3 to 5 years when we have audits of this fund. We need to look at what we can afford and what we should afford. We've been using employee contributions and the lack thereof from the county to balance the county budget for about 20 years. I don't think we should do that anymore. I don't think that we morally should do that anymore. We need to give our retirees something, not just for our retirees, not just for the service that they've done, but also employee retention, employee recruitment. When we show that potential future employees that we care about when they, not just while they're working here, but when they retire as well, I think we're going to get a better and higher quality candidate for a lot of these positions. But I'm going to it's going to be difficult for me to vote for a $1.5 million allocation. We've got 3 different proposals here. I'm leaning towards the one that says 1% for every 3 years of service. That's about a 0.33% increase per year. Is that going to make up for the inflation? No, absolutely not. It never will. Defined benefit plans don't. Defined contribution plans don't. All retirement plans don't. The longer it goes, the less buying power that you have in your retirement accounts. But I don't think that we should be spending $1.5 million annually on this. But I do think we definitely need to do something. And more importantly, we need a process in place that we look at this every 3 to 5 years, so this doesn't go 20 years again.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I just want to elevate a couple of things from the comments you shared. So in our agenda request document, the 1.5, just to clarify for the public, A 1.5% increase would create an additional $1.3 million for county contribution. And it would not take us under 100% funded. It would bring us from 109.8 to 102.9. So it would still be over 100% funded if a 1.5% increase were awarded for each year. So I just wanted to elevate that. One other thing, and it's important for us to recognize as we kind of think through what's happened. We should be very proud that we've been, fiscally responsible and conservative, and we have a fully funded retirement fund. But at the same time, we did that because we sort of neglected the needs of recognizing the cost of living for retirees. So that fund is fully funded because we did not provide any increases for 20 years. And if we hadn't done that, we might not, be looking at a fund that's over 100%, but we may also have been treating our employees in a more equitable way. These are people that gave many years of service to the county government. So it's a mark of pride that we did that, and a mark of shame at the same time. And absolutely, as we go forward, however we resolve what's occurred here, there is no way that elders in our community should be ignored for 25 years. And some of us here, I have we have elders on our commission. My dad is 74, he's retired. And your medical expenses escalate. It is difficult to live on a fixed income. And that's articulated by people who were in, professional positions for the county. I can't imagine the struggle for somebody that worked at the juvenile home or that worked for buildings and grounds, on some of our entry K bands, that must really hurt. So we have to find a way to resolve it. Commissioner Morales.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm not even going to sugarcoat how hard it is for retirees right now. It's beyond challenging for them to keep up with rising healthcare costs, Medicaid being slashed if they got, every other week I have family members that have to switch Medicare plans, and it's so much more money, and they can't afford their meds and have to pick and choose between that. And I think when we have plans like this, we need to take care of our folks, which I'm not very popular because I'm always saying, give it to them. And I'm going to say it with this one, but not at the 1.5%. To know that it operated for 20 years and we have this, healthy balance because we were being neglectful is not sitting well with me, whether it was before my time or not, because during my time, we didn't check it and I didn't bring it to the floor. So I would propose, especially if 1.5 would still keep us at 100%, 1.25. I do want to see if we can get some numbers later. You don't have to do it right now. What does that look like to sustain number one? And if we do that, can that be solid and not ever go back? So if we're at 1.2 in 3 years, when we look at it, nobody can bring to the floor, oh, we're going to take it back to 1%, that it can only go higher. If we choose, to give more percentage. And then with, when you talk about Parks and Rec, some folks on the lower end of the scale, as we move to push folks from 15 to 20 plus per hour, how does that look like? What does that look like moving forward as we continue to insert, more higher job grades for employees that are current, and as we attract employees for those who are going to be facing this retirement system in the future?
Commissioner DeLu and then Commissioner Gisler.
Yeah, I actually just have two questions. This is the first time I've seen this stuff. So are we talking, just as an example, 1% per year, every year? Okay, and can Vice Chair Taylor explain the 1% for is it every 3 years of service?
Yeah, but one of the proposals in here, and I'd asked administration to kind of prepare this as sort of a compromise sort of solution. But for every 3 years of service, for instance, if you retired 21 years ago, you would receive a 7% increase on your check. If you retired, the 1% every year, or 1.5% every year would be if you retired 21 years ago, you would receive a 32.5% increase on your retirement check moving forward. So it's the 1% every year. There's 1.5% every year, and then there's 1% every 3 years. So if you retired 6 years ago, you would receive a 2% increase on your check. I have looked. I have not found, other than ones that were bargained for, any sort of increase in defined benefit plans, specifically publicly held ones, where there was any sort of increase. And we'll never make up for COLA. We'll never get true cost of living.
Commissioner Gisler.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to add another element to the equation that we'll be looking at as we do this, and that is the value to promote longevity. Now, I know we do see longevity rewarded by getting a proclamation and a plaque and whatever, but I gotta wonder, is that staying with the way things used to be? You know, I married the company 3 times in my career at the pharmaceutical business. I've got grandkids that, you know, they go through as many jobs in a 10-year period as I went through in 40. And I don't know if that's typical, or if I have the feeling that the longevity may not be the factor that we tend to think it is, because people are, especially the good folks, they're ready to move on like tomorrow if they can get a better deal somewhere else. Just a thought that maybe we should be looking at the value of the defined benefit plan and hanging on to people. And maybe we aren't hanging on to that many people. We're just seeing the ones that show up here to be rewarded for 25 years and that sort of thing. Thank you.
Commissioner Morales.
And I think we can do some good. To your point, yes, it is in this age, the young adults, when they don't like something, they leave. So it's, well, I keep my job, so but I will say, just in the society, when we're talking about equity and inclusion and those things, the youngsters these days, when they don't like something, they bounce. You made me lose my train of thought, sir. I'll think about it.
Commissioner DeLu.
Yeah, I just have another question again, because I've just saw, I'm assuming Bob Salisbury is on the investment committee? Retirement?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he seems kind of concerned about what we're discussing. Because he even says an alternative may be a one-time payment, which I know we're not really fond of, but I mean, he seems pretty concerned about the balances we're going to have, or the contributions we're going to need to make if we do any of these programs. Just keep in mind.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner DeLu, because I did want to elevate for us. I think commissioners have, I'll get materials, and particularly the third bullet that was elevated. So he stressed for us the effect of a reduction in the excess assets as having a significant impact on our employer contribution. Important to recognize that the increase in the contributions not just for 1 year effect, but continues on an annual basis. And so he saw a 1% COLA increase with a dollar amount has a 36% higher than the current contribution rate. 1.5 would increase the contribution by 53.7%. And then 1% for every 3 years increases it by 10.8%. And so that had a marked sort of impact on the sort of sustainability overall of the whole program and sort of the investment risk that's available to them. Commissioner Morales.
Thank you, Chair. I remember my thoughts. So how are we move with this? You know, if it's in the favor for the masses, as Commissioner just mentioned, you know, folks are ready to go ahead and be on out the door. You know, if we can offer something good, I think that folks won't work until they're 80 because they know they can't afford to retire. So this could be where we can have healthier retirees, where we're not working to death and people, you know, just holding on that have already spent many of their years that they have left and they have before them. So, you know, I just want to highlight that when you know, working in education, most folks will work until the wheels fall off based on retirement. And I think that folks deserve to live, especially after they've given, you know, 20, 30, even 40 years of service.
Vice Chair.
And I think what we have here to Commissioner Gissler's question, I don't look at this as much of a retention sort of, they will have impacts, small impacts in retention as people see what we do now for our retirees. These people have already moved on and retired, but doing that, you know, doing something now will show the current employees and maybe prospective employees that we take this and we're going to look at this each and every 3 years or 5 years or whatever we come up with a process. I think that will have more impact on retention. I think if we really want to, you know, tackle the retention issue, it's not so much a COLA multiplier, but a vested year date. Is it 8 years or is it 6 years or is it 5 years? We can probably, if we're going to tackle the retention sort of aspect, I think lowering our vested age from 8 years down to 6 years or match what the city does would probably have more of an impact. And it would also affect when we change those assumptions, it would also affect what our contribution rate is, just like it would on the back end with retirees. But that's a different discussion that we could have as far as retention. And I'm happy to have that as well. Having both those conversations at the same time is going to be really damaging, I guess, or not damaging. It could be very impactful to our retirement investment account now. But I'm with what Commissioner Morales said. I think we need to do something. And we definitely can't go 20 years without looking at this again. I think if anything comes out of this process, this discussion, it needs to be a process that we are going to look at this every time there's an audit of a retirement investment account.
Thank you, Vice Chair. One of the things that you elevated also is sort of what is the standard practice among defined benefit plans? And so I think that's important also for us to understand, you know, we see the impact of inflation on sort of the value of the benefits for the employees. But has the county moved into a position where it is handling these plans as other employers are? That helps us to understand a bit of the mindset used to determine sort of moving away from annual benefits. And I don't know, Administrator, do we have any evaluation of what other defined benefit programs are doing? Is there a place where that sort of data could be sought for us? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chair. So I know as of recent, the city of Kalamazoo actually approved a wage increase to retirees, but it was as of, so the language actually says retirements on or after January 15th, 2024 shall receive a post-retirement adjustment of 2% in January of each year, which is compounded annually. And it says an exempt employee shall not be eligible for a post-retirement adjustment of 2% if he or she takes a deferred retirement. And so basically right in our backyard, I guess that's and they're, you know, that system is managed by the same retirement investment committee that we have today. So they have that, but that, you know, is only applicable to us, you know, a subset of their retiree system. And so we can try to work with the retirement investment committee to see if they have knowledge. Perhaps our pension attorney, may have knowledge, but we can try to do some homework, so to speak, on that and get back to the body. I guess I do also want to just articulate that it isn't all just about, being an overfunded system. Being an overfunded system is great because it shields us. It provides a, sort of a buffer, right, in the market. As you know, as I explained earlier, we decrease a little over 1%, because of the market shifts. But also what it has to do with is it also has implications on our employee benefits fund. And so affording, any sort of increase will have implications on the sort of benefit enhancements for our active employees that we can entertain for future budget years as well, because affording this sort of an increase now compounds each year. It's not just something that costs us $1 million or, I think the 1.5 for every 3% was, or 1% for every 3 years retired rather, was like 272,000, but that compounds each year. It's not just a single year issue. So we just have to just kind of keep that in mind. And then also keep in mind that, 1/3 of the county's workforce would be eligible to retire over the next 5 years. So recently we have noticed an increase in benefit payouts from 2023 to 2024, aligning with that expected retirement window. And additionally, there's been a trend in more lump sum payments or payouts rather, contributing to a decrease in the funded percentage ratio in 2024. And so we want to articulate that, we're seeing, although, folks are staying here and are eligible for retirement, they're also taking the lump sum payment, which has implications on the funded ratio of the system as well. So having a overfunded system is great. There's probably a point where, it's all arguable where you're too overfunded, right? Maybe, but, being at 108% is we're on that fence, so to speak, with the market. So happy to do that homework and get back to the board and take any additional questions.
I have an additional question, Administrator. The trend for individuals taking the additional lump sum, that has more of a short-term impact on the balance of the retirement fund, but it doesn't then compound over years because they've taken their funds, they're out of the system, their benefits are not then compounding in payments going forward. Is that my understanding correct?
That's out of my wheelhouse, I'll admit, but I think that we can take that question and get back to the board on that as well. Yep.
I appreciate that.
Actually, I already have the answer.
Oh, yeah.
My team they're fast. Yes, the answer to your question is yes. Thank you.
Okay, maybe then the follow-up question could be sort of, what is that percentage generally of retirees looking like? So what's the trend? How many people are opting into that lump sum? Not that it's necessarily indicative of future patterns of retirees, but it may be, because certainly they could take those funds and then invest them to their own growth rather than taking our growth rate, which has been zero for about 25 years. Are there other questions? Commissioner Gisler.
Yes, and this is a broad question that I'm sure you guys talk about in leadership meetings. We're locked in, I am assuming, to a defined benefit pension. I believe the turnover in the last 30 years or so in the private sector has been away from that defined benefit and into, you put in so much and we'll put in a match it for 5% or whatever. Are we no longer even thinking about that or looking at it, or is there some reason we cannot?
We are one of the few pension plans that it would actually be more expensive for us to transition to a defined contribution plan, which most employees and most people don't want it. They want a defined benefit plan. It's a better plan. It's a more structured plan. The reason most companies in the private sector and most municipalities in the public sector have opted for a DC plan is because they can't afford a DB plan. We've had such conservative numbers in our assumptions going forward, and then no increases for our retirees for 22 years, that all of those combined have increased our defined benefit plan over 100%. Most governmental entities with DB plans that try to keep DB plans have ended in financial managers, to be completely honest with you. It's bankrupt their municipality, mostly because their employee contributions have rise until the increases become unsustainable. So that's where I think our administrator was trying to get a little bit of caution on. 108% is probably maybe a little too high. It's a good place to be, but it's not super too high. We get down below 95. If we start getting once we get under 100, those employee contributions compound upon itself, and we've got to do our best to try to get over 100%, or it's going to cost us even more later. So to answer your question, it's a weird situation, and I've had lots of conversations with constituents asking me, why are you guys going with the DB plan, a DC plan? So not in this case. It's actually cheaper for us because we are overfunded to keep our DB plan, and it's better for our employees, it's better for our retirees to have a DB plan than a DC plan. And the reason we were able to do it was decades of fiscal sort of conservancy on this issue.
And first-rate pension investment committee for a long time.
All right, so any other questions we want to bring forward at this time? Right, so I think administration has some follow-ups for us. We appreciate all of the work and the help of our actuaries and advocates on this issue. We will bring it forward at a future agenda for additional discussion. All right. That brings us next to discussion on millages, indirect cost allocation plan. Administrator.
Yes, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair Pro Tem, Commissioners, audience. In anticipation of our kickoff of the budget process, we board leadership asked for there to be an indirect cost allocation plan discussion on the agenda as a precursor to the budget. And so we wanted to highlight the cost allocation plan as it relates to the county's 4 millages. Under the current policy, grants and special revenue funds are not included in the annual cost allocation plan and are assessed at a 10% allocation for indirect costs. However, cost allocation for millages has varied based on previous board decisions and funding utilization. So for example, you'll notice that the law enforcement fund has historically been leveraged and set up to supplement the general fund, while the housing millage currently has a lower allocation indirect cost assessed to it due to the 2-year lag rule in our cost allocation plan. So moving forward, as we consider how we desire to operate these millages, we should consider how these allocations align with our fiscal policies and long-term sustainability goals. And I am happy to take any questions about any of those millages and the costs allocated or assigned to them. That's all I have for you this evening.
Seeing no others, I want to elevate on the housing fund, not necessarily directed at indirect costs, but we did address with the opioid settlement funds, the amount of balance from that fund sitting in general fund accruing interest, and earmarked that the interest for that fund will go back directly to opioids. So we do have a similar situation occurring with the housing millage. There are significant resources sitting invested, and the interest at this time is just going back into general fund. And so I think, looking at the ongoing housing crisis, making sure that we're maximizing the resources that we have to support investment, especially as we're endeavoring on, groundbreaking projects like the transitional family shelter, and that we bolster the housing fund. So I suppose that is then some follow-up conversation we need to have with treasurer to have him come forward. So the other with personnel costs, and maybe I need to review more closely our cost allocation plan. But generally we apply 10% indirect cost initially for the first 2 years of a fund until we see the actual costs that are being incurred indirectly, and then we make an adjustment going forward through the cost allocation plan. And so we can see the total indirect costs for the housing millage only at 0.13%, veterans millage at 9.55, and the senior millage at 2.37. The indirect costs for housing are very low. And that's what's actually being charged back to the housing fund for indirect costs at this time? Is that how? Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions from commission? Okay, thank you, Administrator. Okay, our next strategic impacts of federal funding gap. So we had requested a board leadership an evaluation from our county departments administration about what sorts of programs, services, and funds are dependent upon federal and state grants. And so we've received materials to that effect. So this helps identify for the commissioners what departments are impacted by these types of fundings. We can see the constituents served, the amount of our grants, and the populations that they work with. And I think, want to elevate for both employees and for the community, the exercise of this evaluation is so that the county can be proactive in both maintaining an important level of service to the community in need and to retain our valuable employees. The, amount of instability in the dialogue from around federal funding causes a lot of anxiety and has a lot of potential impacts. And I want the community and our employees to know that we are being proactive so that we're not just facing circumstances where we need to, just have to be at the whims of what's occurring, but that we can approach it in a planful way. Administrator, do you have some thoughts that you'd like to add?
Yes, absolutely, Chair. So, Board of Commissioners, I think, as we continue to responsible, our commitment to responsible fiscal management, I want to highlight that we're taking deliberate steps in identifying potential shortfalls in federal funding and state funding that are, service pass-throughs for federal funding, and ensure we do not create a financial crater without a plan. And so at this time, we have not received any formal notification of major funding eliminations, but that does not mean that we should wait really to react. And that's, sort of the impetus of this exercise. So we're proactively analyzing our federal and state grants, examining their impact on county services, and exploring ways to maintain stability should any reductions occur. I believe really like the next step in this process may involve a strategic exercise internally in which departments assess and rank programs, identifying those that are most essential while recognizing that all programs really serve as, really serve a vital purpose. The exercise is not about cutting services necessarily, but rather ensuring that a well thought out approach to managing potential funding shifts. So it will provide us with a clear framework for making informed decisions, for this board making informed decisions rather than being forced into reactive cuts. Additionally, we'll be working with our regional partners to explore collaborative opportunities, leverage alternative funding sources, and advocate for sustained investment needed to keep critical service intact. So I think really this exercise ensures that we stay ahead of the curve, reaffirm our commitment to extraordinary governance, and ensure that Kalamazoo County is financially resilient in the face of any challenges that come before us. So happy to entertain any questions on what we attached in your board packet. And like I said, that document will continue to morph as we or evolve rather as we continue in this process.
Vice Chair.
I know we reached out and we're looking, and there's a lot of exposure on health and community services, especially. Have we reached out to Jeff Patner or anybody at ISK to see what they're looking at or any of our other authorities, maybe airport as well?
That's a great question, Vice Chair. No, we have not, but we can do that. Yeah, we will touch base with ISK and our other partners and submit that information for the board review. Absolutely.
I think they may already have it close to ready too. I think they're working on the same stuff. So just asking for that information might be a good.
Thank you for elevating that, Vice Chair. All right, any others? Okay. Thank you again for all of our departments, administration, for beginning that evaluation process. It's going to be very valuable as we move forward. So bring us next to first reading. This is a request for approval of a proclamation declaring the week of April 11th through 17th as Black Maternal Health Week, Kalamazoo County. Do we have anybody who'd like to read that? Thank you, Vice Chair Pro Tem, for the assist. Handing it way down. Okay. With that, thank you, Commissioner Ray.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for this laptop with all the notes. Okay. Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners Proclamation Resolution. The proclamation title is declaring the week of April 11th through April 17th as Black Maternal Health Week in Kalamazoo County, Michigan. Whereas Black women and Black birthing people in Kalamazoo County and Michigan experience disproportionately high rates of maternal and infant mortality compared to their white counterparts, with systemic inequities and social determinants of health contributing to these tragic outcomes. And whereas despite advancements in healthcare, Black women continue to face significant health disparities, with maternal health outcomes remaining disproportionately poor, even among those with higher socioeconomic status and access to healthcare. And whereas, hold on, sorry, the button went too quick. Hold on. Sorry. Why do you open your packet like this? Okay. Whereas Michigan has one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the nation, with Black women being more than 3 times as likely to die from pregnancy-related complications than their white counterparts. And whereas these disparities are further exacerbated by factors such as implicit bias, inadequate access to healthcare, lack of culturally competent care, and the intersection of race, class, and healthcare systems. And whereas Black Maternal Health Week, held annually from April 11th through April 17th and organized by Black Mamas Matter Alliance, serves as an opportunity to honor the lives of Black women, acknowledge the unique challenges they face, and galvanize collective action to improve maternal health outcomes for Black birthing people across Kalamazoo County, Michigan, and the nation. And whereas we honor the dedication and tireless work of healthcare providers, community leaders, activists, and organizations striving to reduce maternal mortality and promote equitable healthcare for all women, especially Black birthing people. And whereas addressing these disparities requires a multifaceted approach, including raising awareness, providing better education and resources, expanding access to maternal health care, and advocating for policy changes that address the root causes of health inequities. And whereas the health and well-being of mothers and infants are critical to the overall health of our communities, and it is essential that we work together to eliminate the disparities in maternal health outcomes that continue to affect Black women. Now, therefore, the Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim the week April 11th through April 17th is Black Maternal Health Week in Kalamazoo County, Michigan. I call upon all residents, healthcare providers, organizations, and policymakers to take immediate concrete action by raising awareness, supporting policy reforms, and committing to long-term efforts to ensure that all Black women and Black birthing people have access to the care, resources, and support they deserve for healthy pregnancy, delivery, and postnatal care.
Thank you, Commissioner Ray. So this will be our first reading, so we'll take it up at our future agenda for vote. Thank you for reading that in. The next is a first reading for request of approval of a resolution supporting Midwest Energy and Communications Broadband Equity Access and Deployment BEAD program application. Is anyone willing to read that? Commissioner DeLu, thank you so much.
This is in support of Midwest Energy and Communications, also known as MEC, application for Broadband Equity Access and Employment BEAD program funds. Whereas MEC is a customer-owned electric cooperative founded in 1937, providing electricity, propane, and fiber internet solutions to 42,000 rural customers across southern and west central Michigan, northern Indiana, and northeast Ohio, many of whom reside in Kalamazoo County. Whereas MEC is expanding its internet service to bring fiber to the premises to an additional 50,000 addresses in southern Michigan by the end of 2026. Whereas MEC intends to further expand its services by applying for funds through the $42.45 billion BEAD program administered federally by the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, NTIA, and in the state by Labor and Economics Opportunity MIHI office. Whereas Michigan's allocation of BEAD funds totals $1.559 billion, the fourth largest allocation in the country. Whereas funds may be used for a variety of purposes, including planning, adoption, and deployment, with MEC focused on the latter, which includes locations in Kalamazoo County. And whereas letters of support from affected municipalities are encouraged for any internet service provider intending to apply for these funds. Stated another way, the support they are seeking is not exclusive to MEC. Kalamazoo County provided they're not applying directly for BEAD funds themselves, but they may support competitors of MEC, which also intend to serve underserved locations in the county. Now, therefore, be it resolved, MEC is respectfully requesting that Kalamazoo County support our efforts to both apply for the BEAD funds and, if successful, serve eligible locations in Kalamazoo County as determined by the NTIA and Michigan's MIHI office. The Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners are hereby authorized to perform the acts to carry out the resolution.
Thank you for that first reading, Commissioner DeLu. We will again take that up at a future agenda. Now we're going to come to first reading. This is a request for approval of Event Center Financing Program and Assessment District Ordinance. Before we engage in the reading, I'd like to invite forward Discover Kalamazoo's President and CEO, Jane Ghosh. Jane is going to provide an overview for us of the proposed ordinance, about the special assessment on hotels, and some details about the financial analysis and projections for this potential development. Welcome to you, Jane.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I'm joined here today with a couple of my colleagues that I'm just going to briefly introduce because they'll be available as well for questions. So first is the chair of the Discover Kalamazoo Board, Mr. Jeff Brenneman. He's VP of Government Relations and External Partners, and he just has a brief moment before we start.
Thank you, Board. I appreciate the opportunity. I was late getting here, so I missed the opportunity to say a few words during public comment, but I've been fortunate to serve on a lot of local boards, including the KCTA, thanks to this board. I echo what everyone was saying earlier about Mr. McBride. Certainly, he's been a very impactful leader in this community for transit. But now I have the opportunity to chair the Discover Kalamazoo Board of Directors, and we're so fortunate to have Jane Ghosh's leadership in this community. I could point to a lot of anecdotal evidence of Jane's successes under her leadership, but what drives Jane is data, measurables, and outcomes. So she's not big into anecdotes. The goals that guide the measurables and outcomes are developed by a mission-driven approach under her leadership. And we accomplish those goals through tight budgets. Jane is that rare leader that has aspirational vision, but is grounded by realistic budgets. And Jane would never be accused of being a spendthrift, at least not with OPM, other people's money. Most importantly, Jane and the board always ensure transparent stewardship of taxpayer funding when we are awarded those scarce funds. So I apologize for being late today, but understand you heard from many community stakeholders about this exciting project. It truly is a win-win-win for our community. So thank you for your time and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, very much for those kind words. And also speaking with me, I'm going to get started, but is Brian Persky. He's our Director of Business Development. And then we also have with us for questions, Roxanne Steinhoff. She's an outside counsel that we've retained on this project. She is an expert in hotel referendums and has worked on them across the country. So if you have any questions about the enabling legislation or anything like that, Roxanne is available for questions. You heard earlier today, and I'm very grateful for all the community partners who came in and were willing to come in and speak about their interest in and what the benefits they see from this facility. We recognize that you have a fiduciary duty to make sure that if we make this investment in our community, that it is a good investment. And therefore, I wanted to share with you the assumptions the details behind the assumptions that we have made and why we strongly believe that this project is a good fiscal investment, for the county and therefore the authority. I also recognize that you have a 6:30 meeting and you need time in between to make sure that you're ready for the next meeting. So I will go through at pace, but at any point, feel free to stop me. As my board knows, I do love numbers and data, and there's a lot of numbers and data in these upcoming slides. The first thing I'm going to start with is our forecast assumptions for the revenue from the proposed assessment. So if you could go ahead, Dina, thank you very much. So this is based on hotel revenue. So the assessment that is going to pay for the bond to build the facility will be paid back through this assessment. That's 4% of hotel revenue. So just to start, I just wanted to share that, what is hotel revenue? It's like the price of anything, the price of toothpaste, or, how much that revenue you get from toothpaste is how many tubes of toothpaste you sell times the price per tube. In the case of hotels, it's how many room nights you sell times the price per room night, or ADR, the average daily rate. So room night demand times ADR. And we have two sources of data for hotel revenue in Kalamazoo County. One is called STR. They used to be called Smith Travel Research. They work with all around actually globally, but within the United States, they are absolutely the single source of data by market for hotel revenue. And 95% of the hotel rooms in Kalamazoo County participate with Smith Travel Research to get good data. And we get that data on a monthly basis. We don't get property level data. We get county level data. They project for the 5% of rooms that don't participate. But importantly, they provide us the demand and ADR by month. So they tell us how many room nights were sold and at what price those room nights were sold. And we have that data going back to 2010. The other source of data we have is the Kalamazoo County Accommodations Tax System through the Treasurer's Office. So that we actually have hotel by hotel reported revenue, which is great. We can tell in that revenue whether the stays were shorter than 30 nights. And because we know how many rooms per property, we can exclude the hotels with fewer than 35 rooms. The problems with that data are if a hotel has chosen not to report their data, we have no idea what it is. It does not provide demand in ADR, and it only goes back to 2016. So we look at both of those pieces of data. And the first few slides here, thank you, Dina. On the next slide here, this is the Kalamazoo County room night demand in Kalamazoo County going back to 2010. And I've shown a CAGR, or CAGR, is compound or cumulative annual growth rate. It's a way to kind of look at growth, over time when you have ups and downs. Pre-COVID, the growth rate of demand in our county was a little bit more than 2%. If you look at the entire time frame from 2010 to 2024, our most recent year, our compound annual growth rate is 1.5%. So kind of year in, year out, when you average it out, we grow about 1.5% a year for room night demand. And then on the next slide is our average daily rate. Again, this is also from STR. And you can see that in this case, both pre-COVID and for the total period, very similar, a little bit more than 2% for it's essentially like the cost per room going up about 2% a year. And then this is revenue. So it basically demand times ADR gets you to revenue. And as you can see, because demand was higher pre-COVID, the pre-COVID CAGR was about 4.4%, but that total period, our growth is 3.4% over that whole, as far as we have that data going back. So that's the STR data. One of the problems with STR is that it consistently is higher than what we see in the Kalamazoo County system. We call that just internally, STR overstatement. So kind of year in, year out, STR is higher. And you can see, again, we only have the county data going back to 2016. You can see that it's, it's been, 9, 10%, as high as in COVID, 11%. But STR actually changed their methodology. And if you could click, please, Dina. In 2023, going into 2023, they changed their methodology with the intent of having better forecast accuracy. And since then, they've been consistently at 7%. And so it's been a good methodology change for STR. And then next is how much of that revenue is taxable for Kalamazoo County purposes. So only stays fewer than 30 days, 30 nights are taxable in Kalamazoo County. And as you can see, you go back to 2016, it was almost 100% of the revenue reported was taxable. During COVID, it really took a dip. We had a lot of project. There was a lot of, first off, some of the, for example, there was hotels used for a 3-month period to house people who otherwise would have been homeless. So that's obviously a stay longer than 30 nights, as well as there was a lot of project work, whether that at, Pfizer with getting the vaccine ready, some work and so forth. There was a lot of extended stays in our community. So COVID was kind of, and coming out of COVID, kind of an all-time low. We've gotten back to historical norms of about that, slightly less than 45%. And as you can see, well, we were at 99%. I'm sorry, Dina, if you could click one more time. We don't believe that data. We think that hotels were probably just reporting the revenue that they needed to report, for tax purposes. But now we feel fairly confident that, 95% is kind of a regular running rate for ourselves. And then the next slide, how do we forecast? Neither system is perfect. So we take the combination of the two. And the first 3 things we do regularly, because this is how we forecast our budget. So we know how much revenue we'll get in. And I'm proud to report that our first read of our 2024 results is we were 100.3% of budget. So we have extremely good forecast accuracy at Discover Kalamazoo. And we use these 3 factors. So the first is we forecast demand and ADR growth rates using STR to get us that revenue forecast. We factor it down for the STR overstatement, and then we factor it down for the percentage of those stays that are not taxable. Specific to this project, then, we removed revenue from the small properties because they're not subject to this assessment. And then we added project-specific room nights that because of the projects that we're doing, that we have very specific data from CSL. What we don't use, that one could use, maybe my counterparts are using, we're not taking into account supply changes. So if we look at our historical data, I've literally run the correlation coefficients, there's not a negative correlation between supply and daily rate. Because you think in a market where, like, if supply goes up, then you'd think rate would go down and vice versa. That actually is not what happens in our market. We also did not include any estimates of growth from non-CSL studied events. So for example, the Mill at Vicksburg coming and the Hard Rock Hotel opening, we didn't account for any of that in our, because those projects haven't happened yet. So we haven't counted on them. And then we also haven't included the impact of projects on average daily rate. And this is probably really conservative. So, we don't assume that higher occupancy is going to drive up ADR, although that'd be a reasonable thing to say. We also are not assuming that an increase in assessment will drive down ADR, because again, the data doesn't support that. So if you look at the next slide, and I'll just quickly show this, it is not true that the markets with higher occupancy, have a higher ADR, nor is it true that markets with a higher tax and assessment rate have a lower ADR. It's just not in the data. So we did not include those things. So in summary, for our assumptions for how we forecasted how much revenue this assessment could give, you can see there in the middle what the historical data is, and then what we used in our forecast. So for demand, the data supports anywhere between 1.5% and 2.2%. We used in our forecast 1.5% to be, on the conservative side. For ADR, the forecast could support up to 2% annual growth. We used 1%, again, to be conservative. For the STR overstatement, we do believe the new STR methodology is an improved methodology, so we went with 7% there. the percentage of revenue from fewer than 30 nights. We assumed that we're at kind of a stable point at about 94.5%. And then lastly, the amount of revenue from properties fewer than 35 rooms. The only place we can see this is in the Kalamazoo County accommodations tax system. The data in 2024 was a little more than 500,000. And so we assumed growth there. And so we assumed that going forward, starting in 2025, that 2026, excuse me, that there'd be 2025, I'm sorry, that we'd assume about 560,000 the revenue that would not be subject to the assessment. And then we added on to that then the CSL project specific room nights. So the middle column is, you've heard me talk before about the 36,000 room nights that this project is going to bring us. This is how CSL sees it in year 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then kind of ongoing. I also added in the incremental project night from the event center. CSL also did this study. I did not add, so if you go back to your notes from when we were having these conversations about the event center, I did not use all of the hotel room nights that you might have seen in the documentation because I wasn't confident that all of them would be incremental. So there are definitely going to be room nights associated with activity at the event center, but they might not be incremental to Kalamazoo County. So I factored down for that. So we did all of that work, and then we did kind of a preliminary bond analysis. And basically, this is kind of the next page outlines the process that we used. We were first requested PNC to analyze potential bonding using revenue based on what the factors we just talked about, because we wanted to know whether we were in the hunt, or not, to fund a $40 million project. And so that's where we started. And that initial PNC analysis gave us absolute confidence that we could proceed with this project. So they, based on all of their assumptions and using that data, they said the project is viable with a project fund of $40 million, which is the cost to build. We then had a consultation with the Kalamazoo County Municipal Advisor, Ben Zinski and Company, at the introduction of the county administrator and controller. And they also believe, based on an initial analysis showing them the data, that the project is viable. They still need to do detailed analysis, and that work, is ongoing. But at first view, they do believe that with the revenue that this assessment will generate, that this is a viable project. So the next section then is, and again, just to recap, we are assuming that we are paying for the bonding for the construction costs out of the incremental assessment revenue. We are not assuming that the actual operating income is helping pay for bonding at all. We have a kind of a dedicated source of revenue to pay for that. So another question though is, how solid is the operating model for year-on-year income and expenses for this project? Just a little bit of background on the CSL study. They conducted more than 75 in-person interviews. The organizations that they interviewed represent more than 700, teams, leagues, tournaments. And this is just an example of the outreach that they did on the page here. And also on the next page is just an example from the study of one basketball tournament organizer, just so you can get kind of a flavor of how they did their work. So they talked to them, they understood what tournaments do they have today? Where do they have those tournaments? What's the appetite for having tournaments in Kalamazoo County? How many tournaments would they have? What would they expect for teams per tournament? And so now you multiply this times 75, and that's, and not all of the interviews that they did were specific to, basketball and volleyball, but that's kind of how they got to their financial projections. And then this page shows, year on year, what do they expect the operating revenue to be and the operating expenses to be. And as you can see, they do expect a deficit in year 1, but starting in year 2, they see the facility is breaking even and then profitable from years 3 and 4. We have not included any need for that profit to be able to pay back the bond. We are assuming that that the assessment itself can cover everything needed for the bond payments. So the reasons that I recognize you have a very, very important fiduciary responsibility. The reasons I think you can be confident in this project is that the debt service is covered by the assessment, not operating income. That we conducted, really robust multi-factor analysis based on, assumptions that are well-founded in the data. We have a significant amount of data behind each of our assumptions. The initial capacity analysis from PNC was favorable, as was the initial review from Zinski and Company. CSL shows the project will break even from year 2. we've continued to consult. So the CSL study was completed in 2023. We've actually continued to consult CSL along the time because, you know, the world has changed around us, right? And even I think as recently as last week, we, you know, had another phone call to just say, hey, you know, are we still good? Do you still believe in these assumptions? And they continue to feel very confident about project viability. And then lastly, you know, any incremental assessment beyond what's needed for debt service is available to cover any operating deficits. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian because we had another question about like, what would the operating model be? I'm going to turn it over to Brian and then I'll come back up to be available for any questions.
Evening. Yeah, I'm going to talk to the layers here. It's pretty simple, really, is the authority, as you can see on the left here. Sorry, can you go back a page? I don't know who's controlling that. Thank you. The authority is created by the county. So, and whoever the partner municipality is, and we'll talk about some of that later. So that's how the authority is created. And again, that's kind of dictated by the Municipal Partnership Act. And then that's the authority is also who establishes the authority board, which is appointed by the county commissioners, by you guys. So that authority will kind of set rates, establish scheduling, oversight of the building, those kind of things. They'll hire a management firm, and then the management firm takes care of the day-to-day operations of the facility. One of the things that I've talked to Jane about, we've talked about this for years now, as we've looked at this for a while, is, you know, I've been with Discover Kalamazoo for 9 years. And for the first 5 or 6, I was the one going to trade shows, recruiting sports events to Kalamazoo. And there's sometimes several hundred of these appointments on the trade show floor. And one of my close friends in this industry, he works off of an authority model like this. And he, you know, I don't want to name the destination, but they have the distinct advantage of he brings his calendar and his iPad with him to these appointments, and he puts holds on calendars in those buildings as he's taking appointments. That's a huge advantage to all the rest of us. And so I'm always very envious of that. And I look forward to the day that we can do the same thing here in Kalamazoo and get a leg up on everyone else. So that's why we think this is a great advantage, is to have it this way. Go to the next slide. So just kind of going to how the schedule will be booked and how we see it being best case scenario is, again, the tier 1 priority access will be given to non-local tournaments. And again, most of those are going to be 12 months or further out. When we talk to event organizers, they're sometimes looking at 3 to 4 years out, even further. So giving access to those first, remembering that we have an obligation with this to deliver results on behalf of the payers, which in this case would be the hotels. So we've got to kind of make that the first priority. And then tier 2 would be those local tournaments that, you know, some of us are familiar with here in the community. That might be camps, clinics, other youth basketball and volleyball organizations. And then the third tier, making sure that we fill in those daily participation during the day, Monday through Thursday. So that, you know, again, we're subsidizing that venue through weekend tournaments so that local kids can have access to that facility Monday through Thursday. And a lot of those can be scheduled within 3 months or sooner. So just to kind of sum this up here, we obviously believe that we have a unique opportunity to enable local youth sports to benefit here and use visitors to subsidize the local economy. We've done a lot of research on this, I think going on 2 or 3 years with CSL study and with local stakeholders at the table, doing interviews and site visits, literally years of work on this. And we feel like the models demonstrate financial viability for the project. And as we've kind of demonstrated throughout, you know, we believe there's a huge positive economic impact for this that will help support local businesses and give kids an opportunity to play locally that, you know, is very constrained at the moment. So with that, I think I will turn it over to any questions and invite Jane back up here too.
Any questions?
Any questions, Commissioner? Sure, Vice Chair, thank you.
I was just looking around to see if anybody else wants to go. One, I've read through this. First off, thank you so much for this, Jane. I know that you have spent an awful lot of time and a number of years on this. My first question, the assessment district that we're creating is all of Kalamazoo County, correct?
Yes.
And it's not going to be, there was some language in there that I saw on some of that it could get smaller or potentially smaller.
May I ask Roxanne to answer that question, please?
Please join us.
Good evening, Commissioners. So Vice Chair Taylor, excellent question. Yes, there is the ability potentially because, so let me back up. We're operating underneath what's called the Event Center Facilities Financing Act. So this is a state statute. This is a new statute. It was passed in 2020. To my knowledge, this would be the first county to make use of this new tool to finance a facility like this. That being said, this assessment model using business assessments to pay for something like this has been around for a long time all throughout the country. And we even use this in the state of Michigan to fund most of our other tourism bureaus. So that being said, the reason I'm giving you that background and talking about the size of the district and answering that question is because even though the county is passing this ordinance, the hotels have to be on board. Part of getting the hotels on board is the ability to make adjustments when, let's say, down the line, after this facility is built, after the bonds are paid off, all of those things, there's the ability for the hotels to then readjust either what that funding is being used for or what is included as far as geographically in that district. So that's the reason. There's also a legal reason to include that, even though the statute doesn't necessarily talk about this ability. The legal reasoning is that because we have to prove that primary benefit is going to our payers, which in this case is the hotels, right? And one way that you can prove primary benefit is to allow for some degree to be able to adjust, right, what this is. That's how you differentiate between an assessment and a tax. It's the other really important point. This is not a tax, this is an assessment.
Okay. That leads me into my second question, but I will say this, I am in support of this, but I will say strongly for the record, the payers are not the hotels. They're the people staying that. The hotels are just as much as the payers as the treasurer's office that collects it from the accommodation tax system. But I do understand your point. The people that are paying, the hotels are collecting the money from the people that stay there that night, correct?
Yeah, so just as a technical clarification, the assessment is levied on the owners, right? The owners have the ability to then pass through to the transient guests. So from a technical standpoint, we're both correct. Operationally, right? Your point is well taken, but just to be clear on the technical legal aspects.
So there may be some hotels that choose to absorb that 4% and not pass it on to their guests. And then they'd still be obligated based on their room night rate to pay that 4%. Okay, that's a great clarification. I appreciate that. The second, I have a couple of what the boundaries created. You answered that, and I do agree with that sort of ability and flexibility to look down the road if let's say there's a new big hotel or the Mill in Vicksburg or something opens up, and they're not getting the placement happens to be on the complete opposite side of the county. They're not seeing that room rate. You could theoretically change the assessment district if they didn't want to participate. So I think that giving you that flexibility makes sense long term. I just hate to see it, the assumptions that we're going to, this is our operating cost and this is what we're going to generate. But then let's say we lop off half the county, that changes all the assessment rates and the ability to pay back. So you're not talking about drastically changing the boundaries, just maybe if there are hotels or hoteliers that don't want to participate in the program because they're so far removed geographically from wherever this facility is located. Is that a correct assumption?
Close. Let me clarify a little bit more. So the legal mechanism of an assessment is designed to eliminate what we call free riders, right? So let's say, and just so the board knows, we can talk about procedure a little bit more later, but if the board is to pass this ordinance, the hotels then need to vote to ratify the assessment, right? And part of doing that is you don't need 100% approval, right? You need a majority of 60% of the voting rooms. And so if this were to pass, let's say it goes through all the steps and was to pass, any new hotels that are within the assessment district boundaries, which in this case is the county of Kalamazoo, would automatically then be looped in. So let's say we have a new hotel come online that is within Kalamazoo County that is 35 rooms or more, they would automatically be included in the program. Now, and I would point you to also, as far as being able to adjust the flexibility of the assessment district, we are very careful in the suggested language for this ordinance to say that those adjustments cannot happen that would detriment any bonding,
Okay.
right? So let's say a situation like that happens where we've got a new hotelier who, for whatever reason, doesn't understand the assessment or doesn't want to support it and tries to gather the other hotels to try to change the district. If the bond is still in place and that obligation is still in place, they could not, according to this ordinance, they could not change that assessment district to shrink it to negatively impact the bonding. So in other words, to get rid of some hotels paying assessments. So I think that we are very well protected there. The other thing to consider in the future is, let's say this facility all goes well, everything goes great, and we have a neighboring municipality that wants in.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, right, the way this is written, we could expand the district potentially to include more payers because our statute allows that. So that's the flexibility we have. We have the flexibility not to go down, but the flexibility to go up until the bonds are paid off. Once the bonds are paid off, then there's more flexibility for the hotels or for the board to make adjustments.
And we can still increase those flexibilities based on the 2020 rules of the Event Financing Act.
That's
It still
correct.
allows us to do it, even though the population discrepancy from a neighboring county might not fall between the 250 to 300 range.
Yeah, that's a good question. That would be the kicker, right? Is like where are the neighboring populations and those kinds of things. In my legal opinion, I mean, I'm assuming this would happen way on down the line, so who knows how population changes, right? But it may allow you to do some kind of also voluntary agreement with a neighbor, like let's say a neighboring county, like Van Buren County or something. That doesn't meet the population. If they want in, they could do a voluntary in with their hotel. So it wouldn't have quite the same level, but there's still ways to be able to do that.
Gotcha. And we're very familiar with this 2020 rule and that it was specifically designed and created for Kalamazoo County. That's why you've got these population sort of requirements attached to it. And then my last, or actually I got two more quick questions. I'm sorry, Chair. The operating income by year 3 or 4, you're showing a potential operating 2 to 3 to 4 year operating income. I'm assuming that that would then be used for sort of to try to judge to expand a facility or try to make it bigger. It's not going to necessarily reduce that 4%, or it could.
Correct. That there are, what we've seen when we've talked, CSL is our consultant. What they have told us is that the most people after they start here, that what they want to do then is expand and make it bigger. They also developed for us 2 additional secondary priorities, that other things that we could do in the community to increase sports tourism. I think all of those are potential options for us, down the road.
My last question has to kind of ties in with accommodation tax. The current percentage, and I could be off here, percentage of the accommodation tax, the parks get some, Discover Kalamazoo gets a large share. And then I think the treasurer's office gets a small percentage for the collection purposes. Would that same sort of, obviously the parks wouldn't get it, but would that same sort of collection process for the treasurer's office be included in that percentage?
So right now with the current Kalamazoo County accommodations tax, the treasurer's office gets the first $7,500 a month to pay for the administration. And then county parks gets 29%, Discover Kalamazoo 71%. Under this new, and I'm gonna have Roxanne correct me if I'm wrong, this incremental assessment, the way that the ordinance is written is that the treasurer's office gets the first 1% to administer.
Is that correct? That's correct, yes. Okay. 1% of the total.
Yep, I got it. Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. I appreciate your answers. Thank you.
Commissioner DeLu.
In your example, you used a bond of 40 million. Is that enough? Is that the projected cost of the facility?
So
where did
had,
that figure come from?
Thank you. We both CSL gave us a cost to build estimate, and then we engaged a consortium of Tower Pinkster, AVB, and Hurley and Stewart, and they came up with a cost to build of 41 million. So it was very close. Now, those were obviously before tariffs and some other things, but that was the cost to build at that time. At the same time, other things have changed since the PNC analysis on interest rates and so forth. So that's why we're continuing on with the county's municipal advisor to get the latest bonding. Yeah.
Also, way back when this first came up, you said there was going to be a need for private donations.
So
how's that going?
how, at this point, so based on the assumptions that I shared, today, as we had, again, initial conversations with the county bond agent, but the Benzinski and Company, if we can bond under the county's full faith and credit, we no longer need a bond reserve fund. And there's some other things I believe we can get potentially a favorable interest rate that would enable the bonding to cover more of the project cost.
One last question, because I'm
subject to final review.
A little ignorant to this. These hotel rooms that you're basing the income from, how do are they in the honor system to report this? How do we know that they're accurately reporting number of nights and?
Exactly. So right now, this new ordinance is actually a little bit different from the current Kalamazoo County accommodations tax system. So I will have Roxanne talk to that.
That's an excellent question, Commissioner. So the enabling statute that we have here requires the hotels to report their occupancy and their sales tax or any relevant tax data. So the enforcement mechanism, so let's say that happens, right? We have a hotel that is not reporting their numbers. The county has the legal mechanism to compel them to produce that data. And if they don't, then that's a lawsuit, right? But I mean, for a hotel to do that at that point, I mean, the statute is clear in that is a requirement that they must produce that information so that we have the data to then assess whether they're actually paying the right assessments or not.
Right, but do we know if they have 150 night stay, what if they're reporting 130? Is there any way of, do we know? I don't know.
Are you saying, let's say that they have a guest that stays for 150 nights?
To report the actual number of nights that people are staying, I guess is my question. Or is there any way of auditing that, or do we currently?
Yeah, I mean, there's, and I don't know if Jane wants to speak to how that works normally, but did you want to?
Yeah, I think the difference is that in this case, they're reported to they're required to share quarterly, I believe, their sales tax data. So for them to kind of lie or cheat to us would mean they're lying or cheating to the state. And there's obviously very significant consequences, to that. So we have confidence in our hotel partners, that most of them every day they wake up just trying to do the right thing for the hospitality to visitors in Kalamazoo County. That I do believe that the required quarterly reporting of sales tax data is a nice incremental requirement that will be true for this assessment. That's not necessarily true for the current Kalamazoo County accommodations tax, which is self-reported.
Commissioner Gissler.
Thank you, Chair. Jane, you mentioned that the full faith and credit of the county will be backing this up. How is that going to impact our current credit rating?
May I ask the administrator to speak to that?
Yes, very good question, Commissioner Gissler. So part of the process when we go out and bond is we're required to obtain a credit rating analysis. And so we'll have to go through that process and we'll see what it does. I can't tell you that it would or would not affect our credit rating. $40 million, I doubt that it would. I mean, we're financially stable. But I can't speak on behalf of what the credit agency, I believe that it would be. Oh goodness, yeah, Moody's, yeah, that would deliver that to us. But yeah, that's all part of the process. The board eventually, if discussion ensues and the board ultimately approves that bonding authority, then we would have to go through those finite steps to determine what the credit rating is, and then that's how eventually that's how you get to the interest rate. That's they'll deliver that based on our credit rating.
Commissioner Gissler.
Thank you. Yes, I know when we bonded for a portion of the Justice Center, our credit rating at that point I think was AA+. Are we still there?
Yes, we're still there. Yep.
Okay, super. Thank you.
Commissioner Ray.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Jane, for the additional information. At what point will we know the site or the municipality? And then what happens if that partnership isn't formed? What happens if that partnership with the municipality isn't formed? Correct.
Oh, is not formed. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah. So right now, what we, from the timeline that we're working on right now is, and we believe that we want to act, we want to seize the moment on this, because we think that if there's a community very close to us that does this, that we will miss an opportunity to have a significant impact on our community and our visitor economy and the vibrancy of Kalamazoo County. So we are anxious to make sure that we play to win here, I guess, versus playing not to lose. Therefore, kind of the timeline that we see is we are asking you today that to have this first reading of the ordinance, to be followed by public notice and a second reading and a vote to establish the ordinance on April 1st, to be followed by the hotel referendum. And immediately following that hotel referendum in May, we would then be recommending a decision on the location. We have three locations that are all viable in different locations across the county. CSL has advised us to keep our options open as long as possible. And Brian and I even just had a conversation last week with another potential location, as someone who thought that, wanted to bring their location up for consideration. In that particular case, it did not rise above any of the three priority locations that we have right now. But something could come up, between now and then that would make it, change our thinking about what is the best location in the county. So on CSL's advice, we're keeping our options open as long as possible. So then we're thinking about May would be when we'd make the decision. I can tell you that part of what makes a location viable for us is that the municipality is on board. So for each of the three preferred locations right now, we have had conversations with the relevant municipalities and they are all on board. We're in the luxury of having multiple options. And if a municipality didn't want this facility, then we've got other options.
Vice Chair.
Quick to answer Commissioner Gissler's question, the $40 million is not going to affect, especially with the dedicated revenue source. I think Moody's is going to look at that and it's going to have very minimal, if any, sort of impact on our credit rating. Our audits would have way more. Yeah, our audits would have way more of an impact on that. But my question is on the municipal, it was touched on, Commissioner Ray kind of got my mind running. What are in this, and excuse my ignorance in this question, I probably should have been more prepared for this, but what are the, if we're going with another municipality to form in partnership with the authority, what are their requirements and what are their obligations, whoever that municipality would be?
I'm going to turn it over to Roxanne to answer that.
Another excellent question. So we're working with two things here, right? First, the Event Center Financing Act, which is that's our enabling statute. And that requires that a facility or the way that the revenue is dispersed has to be at the behest of the county or an authority. And the only thing that statute says about an authority is that it should be formed pursuant to Michigan law. So we were very careful in how we structured this ordinance to lay out the bare bones of what we feel legally and I guess administratively we needed to do to protect how this assessment revenue is spent and to give the county the ultimate control over how that is spent, but was still giving us the flexibility in how we partner with a municipality, right? Because and then county council can talk to this too, our counties in Michigan have some limited power in some of these situations, right? So we've got to look to different enabling abilities to be able to create this authority. So what we've done in structuring this ordinance is we have laid the bare bones of what is required for the board of the authority, anticipating that we might have to pivot, right, depending on what happens with different land selections or in a negotiation with another municipality, right, to really get into the nitty-gritty of how we really structure this authority. So to go back to your obligation questions, the obligation is really at this point up to the county and how they want to structure that relationship with the partner municipality, right? And again, like the reason we did that is to allow that flexibility to ensure that there's a good partnership. At minimum, that other municipality would have a seat on the board. They get to appoint somebody to that board. That's kind of the give for having them come into this tent of the authority. But I think that's really an opportunity for this county board to think about how they want to structure that partnership.
Well, I guess once we create the authority, it's really not up to this county board to structure that. It's up to the new authority, correct?
So in creating the authority, you'd have to approve, right, articles of incorporation, bylaws, that sort of thing. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. And when you create the authority, because the county only has limited legal ability to do so, you'll need that other municipality to create it with you, right? So that's where the structuring piece comes in.
When you talk about limited ability, I mean, other than zoning, I guess, what are you referring to?
So, and County Council, feel free to help me out here. But basically, there's only so much legislative ability for this board to act, right? So that's why we've got to look to some ability in the law to be able to create this authority. So some of your other authorities are created pursuant to state law, right? And we've got structure there. Do you want to jump in, Lou?
Thank you for that. As this body is aware, the county has limited powers compared to cities, townships, and villages, especially in regards to policing powers and other powers that they possess that this body does not possess. So for instance, once we build the event center, wherever that is built, that municipality does have an obligation for the streets and roads that it controls in order to improve those if necessary to for access to the event center. That's one thing that could also be required. Also with the policing powers, with the who will the event center contract with in order to provide security or police authority for the event center if necessary. What am I trying to say? I'm sorry. So that they could contract, the authority could contract with the local police authority in order to provide that service. So those type of obligations would be expected from the municipality with which we would partner with.
I understand the infrastructure part, but the policing power, short of the city of Kalamazoo and the city of Portage, and the village of Augusta, but the Kalamazoo Township, I guess, as well. But most of these outlying townships the police protection falls underneath the county sheriff's department, correct?
Yes, sir. And part of that may be part of that comes to determining where it will go. So I don't think that I shouldn't say I don't think. The law anticipates that the municipality, which is the partner, will provide certain services and certain infrastructures that will be needed in order to sustain. And as part of that, once the ordinance is adopted and as we comport the articles of incorporation, not the bylaws, but the articles of incorporations, those things could be placed into the articles of incorporation by this body.
So I guess in long short, just put it out there, we're looking for a municipal partnership, mostly for infrastructure dollars to and from that. As far as policing is concerned, I can't imagine this having more of a need than a big box store type situation, correct? Or is it going to need substantial police presence at this facility?
So in general, I mean, this wouldn't really be any different than any other development that would go in any municipality, right? So as far as money for policing and those kinds of things, I mean, County Council is absolutely right. I mean, there's already a general expectation that those things would fall within that individual municipality. I think in answering your question, I was thinking of like the structure and the obligations there, but think of this like any other development. And any other development in any other township or any other municipality, there's an obligation to, there has to be police, right? The roads have to be taken care of, all of those sort of things.
I guess I'm all for intergovernmental cooperation 100%. I still am not, I guess I'm not grasping. I don't want to hold this process up by any means of the imagination, but I'm still not grasping the need for a municipal partnership into the authority based on perceived limitations of counties. I other than infrastructure dollars, I don't see limitations of counties other than a generality that's been mentioned a few different times without specifics associated with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's my.
So I'd like to ask some questions, and we're nearing very tight on our time, but that's okay. I appreciate commissioners' questions. They're important. We need the answers this is a significant community investment and a significant investment over our bonding authority. Is there a potential for a municipality to share in the responsibility of insuring the bonds? Is that something that's available to us through this partnership to help levy that risk between the two units?
Ask the administrator to.
So Chair, yeah, I guess that's something that we can, have dialogue with our bond advisor. But yeah, I don't know the answer to that question as it stands today.
Okay, thank you for that. And so I do think we need follow-up on that detail. Would the formed authority be the one in charge of making the bond payments?
So it could be that way and likely would be, right? Because the authority is the one who is managing the disposition of the revenue, is in charge of governing the assessment district. Those kinds of details, while obviously very important, we have left some flexibility to be able, again, to negotiate those things, right? So I think the main point to take away here is that this is a dedicated source of revenue. This is a proven method of paying for these types of facilities. This is, even though it's the first time it's been done in Michigan, it's not the first time it's been done anywhere else under this act, right, specifically. So, Chair, to your point, there's flexibility here and there's flexibility by design. So that way we can give the county the best assurances and the best partnership possible.
Thank you. I assume at this point, we don't have any detail about what bond payments would look like without understanding the rate or the exact amount, or do we have a sense?
I only have from PNC, and that is a little bit dated, and the county bond municipal agent had some builds on what we saw from PNC. So I don't have anything that I feel confident enough to share with you yet, but I do expect it next week.
Okay. Are there any other planned facilities similar to this one within a 90-mile radius that you're aware of?
I mean, 90 miles. There is one that just opened in Mishawaka, which I guess would fit within the 90 miles. We hear rumors from our counterparts when have the opportunity to see them. Of the rumors that we've heard, none are within 90 miles.
I guess others are to operations, but I'm wondering if there are guarantees that a private contractor would not compete with the expo center for indoor events that are outside of athletics with a specific facility. Is that something that could be considered in the operation contract?
Sure, absolutely. I think, once we get this, then, we will engage stakeholders in an RFP process to find the best facilitator. And we could absolutely write that not only into the search process, but into the contract.
And then management firm, how will that be selected? Through the authority, or what other mechanism would be used?
I believe it's the authority that makes the decision on that.
Thank you. Commissioner Wheeler.
Thank you, Chair. And Vice Chair, I think I kind of am getting at what you're getting. Anywhere that this facility is put within the county is going to be in somebody's township, village, city, whatever it may be. And that expectation and the obligation that municipality has is kind of a requirement for us to have that intergovernmental interaction. So like she's saying, maintaining the roads, maintaining, the police presence. So by the youth sports facility being put in their municipality, this is kind of the cooperation that has to go on with it, if that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I was getting what you were getting. I was getting what they were saying. The other thing that I wanted to say, I don't have a question. I just wanted to make a couple comments, is that I've been talking with Jane and Brian for a long time about this project. They have put a lot of time and passion and energy into it. And Discover Kalamazoo has done so much for the economy of Kalamazoo County, for our business owners, for our hoteliers, and that this is kind of, partnering with them as this is our way of giving back for everything that they've done, for the hard work that they've put in, all the information and time and energy that they have spent on making this project come to life. So I'm in full support of this and very, very excited for this first reading.
Commissioner Gissler.
Yes, I'll be very brief. in line with this whole concept of the event center. And we'll be talking about non-financial, non-legal stuff next Monday at 8:30 at Mark's Diner on 677 Romance in Portage. We're going to have Tim Raymond, the CEO.
Commissioner
of-
Kistler, we're very tight on time.
Well, I'm inviting anybody that wants to be there
I
at
know you'll
8:30
elevate
and we'll,
this at
we'll
our.
hear about, I'll mention it at the end of the next meeting
Yes,
too.
thank you so much. Commissioner Morales, you'd like to initiate the first reading.
Yep. Told y'all we'd be tight at 6:30, but nobody listened. Little old me. Anyway, very excited for you and this new development. Whereas the Regional Event Center Financing Act, Act 3.
Wait, Madam Chair, I'm so
Yes,
sorry.
Council.
I did provide a motion to Commissioner Wheeler, and she can give it to you. And in that motion, it states and considered as read. It's not necessary to read this entire proposed ordinance, as that it will be placed on the website tomorrow as well as published in the newspaper. So, and we still will have satisfied the first reading requirement.
Is that agreeable with you, Commissioner Morales?
I was just excited about saying
You
it's
can,
sick.
Commissioner Wheeler, will you
Yeah,
give
I
that,
will.
provide that to Commissioner Morales,
Yeah,
please?
do you want?
Would you please?
I'll read it. It's fine. I move that we lay on the table and consider it as read the ordinance and resolution establishing the Event Center Financing Program and Assessment District, and that the clerk is directed to post notice of the public hearing scheduled for April 1st, 2025 at 6:35 PM and to have this notice published in a local newspaper.
Motion was made by Commissioner Wheeler, supported by Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler. Is this time appropriate for the motion of a first reading, or we make the motion after second reading?
No, this is fine because this just puts the notice.
Thank you so much, Council. Thank you so much. Any further discussion?
Sorry. I'll be 10 seconds.
Vice Chair.
Yes, I am in favor of this first reading. I do think, and I want to warn this commission, who we pick on this authority and how we regional and what kind of cooperation we have with a local municipality is going to be very important. So just remember that that second piece is going to be a big portion of how this is going to look down the road.
I'll add, for me, the project is overall very exciting and in typical times would be a no-brainer. I do have some concerns about the economic volatility facing us at this time, and look forward to additional dialogue. With that, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. All right. We have no closed session. Okay, with that, we are adjourned. Hang tight. Hang tight. So yeah, we'll take a recess, but got to start first. Okay. All right. Let me switch our gears here a moment. Thank you for our efforts, commissioners. Let me get where I'm going. Paper copy. All right, I'm going to call to order Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for March 4th. At this time, what's the will of the body? We're going to take a recess of 10 minutes. Is that acceptable? All right, at this time, we will recess for 10 minutes. Thank you. Please take it away. Thank you.
Let us meet together in an effort to build community, to advance education and understanding. We seek the patience of one another as we strive to learn and grow, and the stamina to make a difference in our state, nation, and world.
All right, that'll take us to item 3, which is roll call. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner DeLu,
Here.
Commissioner Gisler,
Here.
Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler,
Here.
Commissioner Mazer,
Oh, here.
Commissioner Morales,
Present.
Commissioner Ray,
Present.
Chair Strebs,
Here.
Vice Chair Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Wheeler.
Here.
9 present.
Thank you, Clerk. Item 4 is for proclamations. We have none. Item 5 is for communications. We have none to the whole board. Are there any members that wish to elevate any communications? All right, seeing none. We'll move to item 6, which is for approval of the minutes. So I'd entertain a motion to request approval of the February 18th, 2025 Committee of the Whole and regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wheeler, supported by Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 7 is for approval of the agenda, the consent agenda as presented. Motion made by Commissioner DeLu, supported by Commissioner Mazer. Is there any further discussion?
Chairs, this is just the approval of the agenda, not the consent agenda, correct?
My apologies.
Okay.
Thank you for
Yeah, no
clarifying.
problem.
Of the motion is for the approval of the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Now we'll move to item 8, which is public comment. So this is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board. You can come forward to the podium. Please state your name and tell us where you're from. You have up to 3 minutes to make your remarks. Time is displayed, and once your 3 minutes is up, your time to speak is finished. This is an opportunity to provide input in a professional and respectful manner. You have to push the button with the little person on it to be heard. You see that there by your mic? Right in front of you. Oh, so sorry. Excellent. Thank you for the assist, everyone. Will you try?
I was with my 84-year-old uncle on dinner last week, and he doesn't use glasses, but I do. So I don't know. Anyways, James Daly, 1919 Kilgore Road. We own several businesses in Kalamazoo County, and we've actually partnered on a lot of projects together through the Brownfield program. That was a Doubleday building. So we all worked together on that. Thanks for your help. And then the downtown 100 block, that infamous project, and many others. I've talked to John, and I've also met with Mr. Gisler, Commissioner Gisler and Commissioner Hepler. And I have to state, I've been very impressed with how I can reach out to the commission and talk to them. And I've got a problem on my hands. So I got a problem I didn't create. It was created through the MDOT I-94 Portage Road interchange. So while the county did not create the problem, nor did the city, MDOT's not being workable with me to solve my issues. So I filed my claims. And as I said, the county is approachable. MDOT is not. And I'm not throwing stones. I'm just factually telling you why I'm here. So the city is fully behind me in support. The county, I'm going to need the county's support too to solve this issue if I can. I don't think it's going to come to the floor as a vote. It may. But I'm just asking for some management with upper brass, Terrell and Lindy and Kevin, I think. I think it's prudent to have a short meeting and kind of abreast you of what I'm dealing with. I don't think it's a heavy lift. The property that I need a small sliver of is also being asked for by the airport. So I'm not looking to spar with anyone or argue with anyone. I haven't argued since day one with anybody, but I do need some help from the county to solve the situation that I didn't create. So with that, I just want to say hello to everyone. John, I'll be following up with you with, we talked a little bit on the phone with the data of what's occurring with the property situation. But if I could get a meeting, reached out to Ally at the office, and she was going to try to get a meeting for me with the upper brass. And I just really would appreciate that. So just want to say hello and thanks to all of you. And hopefully you can help me solve this. So if you hear my name in the office, let them know I'm a good guy. I'm not looking to fight, but I'm going to say the third time I need your help. Attorneys, no one's going to help me solve this with MDOT not answering. So good enough. So thank you very much.
Thank you for taking the time to provide comment. Are there any other members of the public wishing to come forward for public comment? Thank you. Please join us. You got to press the little, there you go.
My name is Kathleen Widener, and I'm the owner of the Spirit of Kalamazoo. It's located at 154 South Kalamazoo Mall. We sell gifts and souvenirs representing the city of Kalamazoo and state of Michigan, and also Plainwell ice cream. And I'm here today to voice my enthusiastic support of the proposed youth sports facility for Kalamazoo. When we have sporting groups visit the area, it has a significant impact in our store and in other downtown businesses. In just late January, the 2025 U.S. Synchronized Skating Championships were in Kalamazoo, and it was significantly helpful to our sales when these skaters and their families visited our stores and bought t-shirts, sweatshirts, and ice cream in the Spirit of Kalamazoo. Our business model is dependent on incremental foot traffic and visitors to the city, especially during the out-of-peak season, like in January and February. We have also found that once people visit Kalamazoo for a sporting event, they tend to come back to visit. With the increasing challenges of online shopping and people not coming into the city to work in their office, we are increasingly dependent on incremental foot traffic. Building a youth sports facility in the area is a common sense solution that will benefit everyone at a time when it's really needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the public wishing to make comment? Excellent. Thank you. Representative. You have the little person button.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This is hard. Thank you. I'm here for two reasons today. First is just kind of coincidental. As the newly elected representative for the 40th House District, wanted to say hi to everybody. I've known most of you for a long time, including growing up playing with Commissioner Gissler's kids. So, but just wanted to first, before I spend other time talking about the youth sports facility, wearing a different hat, just wanted to say that I'm here, and I know I have many of your phone numbers, but hope at any time, if there's questions my office can help address. I believe that government works best when it's integrated and coordinated. So any way that I can help, please let me know. More to the point, for tonight, I'm here not as a state rep. I'm wearing my hat as a subject matter expert, as a public health guy, as a guy who was formerly the national health officer for all 2,700 YMCAs in the country. I spent a decade traveling around the country working with over 250 community groups to try and build and strengthen facilities like this youth sports facility that's in development here. And I just wanted to share my support as a subject matter expert, as a faculty member at the med school. The course I teach at the med school with my bestie, Dr. Dixon, just this year had a symposium where our students talked about, after their experience in doing mentorship programs for El Concilio or working with sheltered kids at YWCA, just how important having out-of-school time was and out-of-school facilities were to families in Kalamazoo County. And if that wasn't enough to convince me that I needed to be here today, there's all this data, right? We've spent decades now, generations, engineering physical activity out of our lives. We used to get paid to be physically active in physical labor. Now we pay to be physically active. That's the way the world works. We've engineered physical activity and health out of our lives. You all work on, other municipalities work on things like complete streets, things like that, to engineer physical activity and health back into our lives. And that's what this facility represents to me. Active families are canaries in the coal mine. When families are active and healthy, our community is active and healthy. And it's really important. Healthy children learn better. Healthy adults are more productive at work, miss fewer days,
of work, have better mental health, and fewer risks for chronic diseases. So this facility is not only good for our community and good for the health of our community, but it's also good business. So I commend you all for moving this forward and just appreciate your time tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's your Oscar out music. Very nice. Do we have other members of the public who wish to make comment? Wonderful. Please come forward and join us.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shauna Turner, aka Bird. We are the co-founders of AB Workshop. A is for Ace, B is for Bird, and we are heavily involved in the community. I have my basketball coach right here from high school. So the same lessons that she's taught me, we pass it down to our kids and the community all around Kalamazoo County. I'm gonna let my kids introduce themselves though.
I'm Nana. My name is Jay Sean, aka Chubb. Hi everybody. My name is Johnny. I go by Ace.
And myself, I'm Big Ace. We're here in support of the sports facility. And also just let everybody know, like, this sports facility means a lot to Kalamazoo. It's going to mean a lot to Kalamazoo. We do a lot of traveling, AAU. This is 3 of our kids here. We have another one that's not present. And the amount of money that we spend on a regular, like every weekend, each one of them play on 2 different AAU teams, one out of Indiana, Lansing, and a couple were here in Kalamazoo. And it's been like really, really hectic as far as money wise. We eating out, hotel fees, and shopping because they like to shop. But the point is, it would mean a lot having that facility here, and we would like to just keep our money right here in the city. You know, so that's my spiel. Yeah.
I feel like the sports facility would be very beneficial to our family, especially me, because we spend a lot of time going out of town when we could have one right here and still spend time with my family instead of having to leave, carpooling, and just like losing quality time I could be with my family. So I feel like it'll be very beneficial for us and have us closer as a family and be more productive as athletes as well.
This gym in Kalamazoo, I feel like being a student athlete alone, this would most definitely help a lot of kids, you know, stay out of trouble and actually want to be in the gym just because this gym is in our city alone, wanting us to like work more or like as I'm a content creator, I vlog and all that, like it'll make people want to get out, you know, having a gym in our city, it'll just be like a great thing to have. So this gym is very important.
Which will add value to our city as a whole.
For me, I really like going to their games. For me, it's just like, it's my peace, and like having this is like real good for our community. But I'm also a content creator too. I had like 7-something K, and yeah.
But yeah, that's it for us. Anything else?
That's it.
That's
Thank
it.
y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Oh, I love seeing the young people at public comment, both earlier tonight and right now. So thank you all. Is there anybody else that wishes to share public comment? Dina, do we have anyone online?
Chair, there are no hands raised.
All right, thank you. With that, we will bring it into public comment. And we will move forward to item 9, our consent agenda. I would entertain a motion for the approval of the consent agenda as presented. Motion made by Vice Chair Taylor, supported by Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler. Any further discussion? All right. With that, clerk, would you please call the roll?
Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler.
Yes.
Commissioner Mazer.
Yes.
Commissioner Morales.
Yes.
Chair Strebs.
Yes.
Vice Chair Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Wheeler,
Yes.
Commissioner DeLu, Commissioner Gisler,
Yes.
9 yes.
That motion carries. Thank you, clerk. Move to item 10, which is unfinished business and general orders. We have none. Item 11 is our non-consent agenda. We have none. So that brings us back to a second opportunity for public comment. We had a long work in our first meeting and we're making short work of our second. Are there any members of the public? Oh, we did it. Sorry, thank you. Vice Chair, just clarifying a question for me. All right, with that, I'm seeing no one coming forward. Dina, is there anyone online that wishes to make public comment?
No hands are raised, Chair.
All right, thank you so much. All right, seeing that moves us to report from our officers, bodies, and the administrator controller. So I will begin. I had just an excellent opportunity today. I just want to elevate to the community how grateful I am to continue to serve and represent our community and just share a great interaction that I was able to have earlier today. So we signed closing documents on the hotel that the county has purchased to establish transitional family housing for families suffering homelessness in our community. And we went in and signed the paperwork to solidify our ownership today. And I just wanted to elevate in that experience. I had the opportunity, our housing department has been working with the owner for some time, but it was my first chance to meet the owner. And as we shared some thoughts with one another, he just elevated, there were opportunities where he could have sold the property and made more money than he made. But he was so excited with the vision that the county had to address families who are struggling and unhoused that he opted to sell it to us because it was the right thing to do. He was excited to start working on a playground that's going to be installed for the families that will eventually reside there. He was going to start working on that this week after we close. They'll continue to manage and maintain the property for the next several months as we undertake the transition and site plan process. And he was a young entrepreneur learning from his family, just in his mid-20s, I guess. I don't know exactly how old he was, but a young man. And I think that spirit of understanding that profit is not the most important value in our individual lives and in society. That finding solutions together and collaborating together is what makes a community. And we continue to watch rhetoric at the national level that flies in the face of all of those things. I had another opportunity earlier this week to speak with somebody. Oh, that's my 3 minutes. I know the rest of the board is like, thank goodness for that. An opportunity to speak with no longer in office, but a long-term elected Republican of our community. And he elevated to me, he had thought for a long time that it was right for the county government should just kind of stay out of the dialogue about what's occurring at the federal level until now. And he really encouraged all of us to continue to use our voice, that he was very concerned with our current threats position to our democracy. And I want the community to understand that we need to recognize those threats and understand them as real and continue to organize, mobilize, and reach out to local, state, and federal elected officials. I don't remember if I elevated it last time, but there is an easy smartphone application that you can download called 5 Calls. This will connect you directly to representatives that represent your address, and it will offer you a number of topic areas that maybe you want some information on that you could call your representative and elevate. In particular, I would like to encourage people to elevate and as we have an ongoing budget negotiation at the federal level, the House has passed some measures that will go through to the Senate as well at the federal level. Medicaid and Medicare provide access to medical health insurance and access to health care for millions of people, people with severe disabilities, our elders in the community that deserve and our respect and our support. People are not expendable at the name of efficiency, at the name of profit. And anyone who espouses that they are is not a leader in any term of the word. I also encourage the community to recognize that in the time ahead, as we are called to act and remember what it is to be American, that we have economic power. Where you spend your money and your time has impact. There's been initial economic blackouts that have been encouraged. Those efforts will continue to be elevated and will need to be sustained in order to exert pressure on billionaires that are driving the dialogue in our government. We are not powerless. We are never powerless as long as we recognize the power that we have. And I want all of you to commit to that. The other is building an excellent community here locally. While there's risk and benefits to every decision that we make, we will focus on Kalamazoo's sustainability, Kalamazoo's equity, building a place where children can be healthy, where mothers are protected, where healthcare is available, and where we recognize the humanity of one another. So almost all of that is just, soapboxing, but it's important for us to understand that today. And I just want the community to know that you're not alone and you're not powerless. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And I couldn't agree with the chair more about the aspects of what this community is and what this community does. Today I was at a retired teacher convention. Commissioner DeLue invited me to go and speak to a bunch of retired school personnel. And I was just so impressed with their commitment to education, their commitment to further, even though they're all retired, they're still giving out 21 scholarships in the last 2 years, $42,000 they gave out. They're giving out scholarships to teachers. There's so much giving in this community. It really gives me a hope. As much as, you doom scroll and you're reading news and news and news, and you can get pretty depressed fairly easily. But you look around this community and you see we've got Dr. Representative Longjohn that came to our county commissioner meeting, asking us, how can we be in collaboration? How can we be of service? We've got Discover Kalamazoo, and I asked a lot of really tough questions, but as Director Post would say, I asked the toughest questions to the people that I really respect the most. And I am really, really humbled by the prospect and the potential of this facility and what it could mean for the viability of downtown Kalamazoo, or the area of Kalamazoo County in the future and going forward. I think it's really going to put us a leg up. And the work of this board, I said earlier today that we have 9 different members of this board with 9 completely different perspectives and backgrounds. We're not, we wouldn't say, oh, that guy's like this person and she's like her, and that we are 9 completely different people. And we work well together because of the mutual respect that we have for different opinions. We don't always have to agree, but we agree on the process. And I think that we have trust and understanding that each one of us on this dais wants what's best, not just for their constituents, but for the community as a whole. And it's really fun working with this group. The commissioner stressed some of the Chair Streb stressed some of the potential cuts earlier in the meeting that that we could be seeing from the federal government. I wanted to reiterate how important it is to collaborate with the city of Portage, the city of Kalamazoo, our local townships, schools, where these cuts come and how we can collaborate. And I think it's so important. And administration is currently working on putting a COG together at the end of this month, I believe, March 31st, to try to reinstate that and get that from being so dormant into a at the very least, an avenue for all municipalities to communicate what kind of cuts that we're facing, how can we collaborate on those cuts, and how can we minimize the impacts of those cuts into our community. And I couldn't be more proud to have that group of people, whether it's just from the county or from some of the rural townships or our cities, that are all addressing this problem as one community. And we're going to be far more powerful when we address this as one community. That's all I have for today.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pro Tem.
Thank you, Chair. I concur with what's being said on a number of issues here, and our ability in this county to look at a problem and then work to solve it. And in partnership with all of our townships, villages, and cities that we have, that's a lot of entities that need to come to the table to solve all of the issues that we're facing. Many of them, most folks don't even realize that there are so many things that the county does. Besides run a sheriff's department, a courts, prosecutor's office, a health department, that's a big lift. We also work with our parks department for and our Discover Kalamazoo and all those things to make Kalamazoo a great place to live, work, and play. I got it out this time, Dale. Not going to catch me on it this time. But I appreciate you keeping an eye on it. But we should keep in mind all those folks that do work for us at our county level. We only have about 900 employees that service 200 and what is it, about 247, 250, 262 100 people or 1,000 people here in this county. That's a lot of people, and that's a lot of services we try to provide in coordination with our other municipalities, our cities, villages, and townships. So we want to continue that process. Also, keep in mind all those folks that are out there that do this work. If you see them out and about, take a minute to tell them thanks. Thank our military, protect us abroad, our local police and fire that protect us within, our public works department that keeps our streets plowed. They've had we almost had a winter this year. Our administration that works hard to make sure that all these folks are out there taking care of us and working with us to provide us good information, because if we don't have good information, you're not going to have good results. So I thank Kevin and his team and their hard work to give us good information, so we provide a good product at the end. Have a great week.
Thank you. Administrator Catlin.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair Pro Tem, Commissioners, audience. First, I mean, I need to recognize, them kids that just came up with their parents. It's not in my report, but that just blew me away. I have to say, and I know you guys are going somewhere in life. Maybe one day you'll sit in my chair or Lou's chair, wherever, a commissioner's chair. I mean, that was the oral presentation skills are a testament to the parents, parenting skills and this, I mean, seriously, that was phenomenal. And thank you for sharing your thoughts and being brave to come up in this intimidating room and share your thoughts on the youth indoor sports facility. So that was fantastic. So I appreciate it. I have a couple of, well, actually several updates on a lot of items that we're working on, and they're all very important. I think you all want to know about them. And so the first one is the community granting portal that we discussed as part of the 2026 budget process. So I want to provide an update on that because obviously the board's commitment to a more transparent and structured approach to community funding is never ending. And so as we look forward to that budget process, we've been working diligently to draft a framework for a community granting portal that'll be integrated on the county's website. The initiative is aimed at addressing the challenge of last minute funding requests that arise after I deliver the administrator's recommended budget. So the portal will provide organizations with a formalized, fair, and accessible process to submit those funding requests in a way that aligns with the board's strategic priorities as identified in the strategic plan, and then also your budget funding priorities. This is an effort not just about efficiency, but it's about good governance, ensuring that the public dollars are allocated through a process that is thoughtful, equitable, and well planned. So I look forward to presenting more details as we refine that structure of that program. The next item that I'd like to highlight is the DEI department and the great work that they're doing. So they continue to enhance the resources available to all of our employees. Due to the overwhelming demand within our county, they have actually expanded DEI training offerings. So they're curating a series of engaging sessions designed to foster meaningful conversations and strengthen our workforce. And so among the upcoming trainings, we have sessions on how to have hard conversations internally, enhancing neurodiversity in the workplace, and integration of intergenerational work teams, each designed to provide practical tools for fostering an inclusive and collaborative work environment. So these sessions are a testament to the county's commitment to ensuring that everyone and every employee has the opportunity to contribute to a workplace where diverse perspectives rather are valued and respected. So we're excited about that work. I have two more updates. One pertaining to the parking garage. So we just had our regularly scheduled meeting last Friday, and so we are really trying to give new life to the vacant properties right across the street and redevelop those two properties, those two parcels, into a parking garage. And then we've also engaged in some more forward-thinking and functional space exercise with regard to master planning for the entire site. And so we're going to have discussions with adjacent properties on how that property is designed and spec'd to be intentional and forward thinking and how we integrate a parking structure and potentially other uses within that area. So we're working very closely with the city, very closely with our vendor, that our architectural engineers on that project, to ensure that we can bring something to the board that is palatable and innovative at the same time. Lastly, sort of without further ado, is the Undue Medical Debt Initiative, formerly known as RIP Medical Debt, but that program is now underway. So we're in the final stages of finalizing the effort, and I'm pleased to share that we're making a lot of headway on it. So Undue Medical Debt has been working behind the scenes with area hospitals in this area to identify the total medical debt owed by county constituents, with the last figure showing approximately $82 million in outstanding debt. So our role has been to ensure that the program is implemented smoothly with clear communication to the public about who qualifies, how the relief will be applied, and what to expect. So to that end, we're working very closely with our communications division to launch a dedicated county webpage that will outline the details of the program. Undue medical debt will review the page for accuracy, and then it'll go live, ensuring that we provide transparent and accessible information. So once everything is finalized, letters will go out to eligible participants, informing them of the program, followed by a second follow-up letter confirming that their debt has been eliminated. There's really no work that they have to do. Undue medical debt really does all the work. So that's the moment where obviously we'll bring real relief to our county constituents. So again, this initiative represents the county's commitment to supporting residents burdened by medical expenses and underscores the power of strategic partnerships to drive meaningful change. And so we're excited about this initiative. We leveraged ARPA funding for this, $100,000, and it will eliminate a lot of burden in the county for county constituents. So we're excited about it and happy to report that. And we'll keep you updated on the initiative. So happy to take any questions. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Vice Chair Taylor.
Sorry, I know everybody wants to go home. I just have a really quick question about the portal. I completely, I think that's great. Are you going to allow any sort of, is there going to be administrative recommendations from this portal, or will there be commissioner sort of input into those recommendations?
Yes. So the way I anticipated was it would all kind of coincide with the general administrator's recommendation of the 2026 budget. So it would coincide with it. I'll deliver the administrator's recommended budget, but also separately deliver that in tandem with that budget. So you'll see all of the gambit of organizations that apply for funding, how much funding they applied for, what my recommendation is, because we're working with about $400,000. So we're anticipating receiving requests way beyond that, right? So it'll be kind of a game in terms of, okay, well, where do we think the funding should go? But ideally what will happen is you all see that recommendation, and then you can obviously, as the board desires, modify that based on what's submitted.
Gotcha. So we'll see all the applications that come through. Okay.
Yes,
cool.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so before I move on to other member comments, I just want to elevate their Vice Chair elevated the reestablishment of the Council of Governments. And so we also need to entertain a motion, or I would entertain a motion at this time to direct the County Clerk's Office and Corporation Counsel's Office to work together to draft a resolution to reestablish Kalamazoo County Council of Governments for consideration at the board's next meeting.
Can I make a friendly amendment to that to try to have our meeting by March 31st? Our first meeting on March 31st. Is that appropriate?
Madam Chair? Yes, sir. That was the direction that we received. And as I spoke with Clerk Place today, we wanted to provide a more substantive resolution, but that is the date, March 31st at 9 a.m. at the Road Commission offices. Thank you.
Okay, so motion is made by Vice Chair Taylor, supported by Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Excellent, thank you. Guess we'll start over on this side if I might, Commissioner DeLu.
Well, since the board leadership took care of all the serious stuff, I know we're not supposed to make comment during public comment, but I really wanted to ask Byrd what their record was under Coach Morales.
I was the assistant coach.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gissler.
Thank you, Chair. I have two short items. One, the Road Commission began the seasonal weight restrictions last Friday. So if you're driving big milk trucks or lots of manure around, you'll have to have a permit to drive on the local roads. And I will reiterate the comment I made toward the end of the discussion of the event center. Tim Raymond, the CEO of Greenleaf Hospitality, will be speaking at Mark's Diner on March 10th. That's next Monday at 8:30, and will be giving us a full rendition of everything other than finance and lawyering about the event center. He's got a big role to play, and he'll be talking to us about how fast things are going to happen and what they're going to do, and how fast we're going to get parking ramps, little things that might be important. Thank you.
Commissioner Wheeler.
Okay, I just have three quick things. I'm sorry. What?
I said your name wrong, so you're Commissioner Mazer. Thank you.
It's okay. Okay, first of all, thank you everyone who spoke tonight, especially that family over there. You guys were outstanding. Reminded me of when my kids were all home. I had 6 kids and it was fun, always fun. And then And then also, second is I attended the Albert White ceremony on February 19th. Absolutely loved it. It was just beautiful. And I got a little misty. It was just so neat. So, and then last, okay, everyone was given one of the, at the dais here, everyone's given one of these little items here. We're in a capital campaign for the Woolham Nature Preserve. And when we go to the foundations and potential donors, it's very helpful to have 100% support from the Board of Directors, County Board of Commissioners through individual contributions at any amount. Okay, so and because then we can tell them that our county board has demonstrated their support through personal donations. So I would ask you to please consider, and if I was thinking, I would have put a stamp on this, you know, so I'm sorry I didn't put a stamp on. I can bring one to the next meeting. So, but we've got a brochure. There's a brochure in here. Okay, and then also to ways of donating. So I hope you will consider that. So thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Morales.
Thank you, Chair. So, Commissioner DeLu, I was always over 500 with the teams that I was the head coach on. Just so you know, I came in, I believe I was fresh out of college when coming from Savannah State University, and I was the assistant coach for them, training them. So, it was a pretty brutal process, but as you see, it worked out. So I am so happy and proud of you and Ace, just watching y'all grow up and to have this next generation. And I don't think y'all understand what they're doing. They are up at 4 a.m. every morning, practicing for at least 2 hours, shower, eat, and then the kids are going to school. And it's not just their kids. Y'all have about 20 kids now, give or take? 85. Okay. So I've been lost in the sauce a little bit. But for 85 community children and parents, specifically those of color who have challenges and barriers that are making sure y'all get out to 9th Street, at that Bronson facility is amazing. So I just want to congratulate you all and just to let you know how proud I am. And to our representative Long John's point, health is wealth. And we've lost that through the things that we're eating on the dais, because we're not planning well and we're at work and then we come straight from work to here for many of us. So I'm excited about, you know, the center that's coming. You know, we got some things we need to fizzle out, but hopefully we get the support that we need, because this is going to be a much needed attraction that is going to bring some good economy and some more money to our community. Secondly, in that interview, it caught my attention when, is it Mr. Rosine? He said pluralism, and I looked at Commissioner Wheeler and I was like, did he say pluralism? And that's something that I've been stuck on for the weekend, as our chair talked about where we are in this economy. And just so folks know, people in the Black community, we blacked out on February 28th and we didn't shop but local. And when the numbers came in for Target and folks that don't support DEI initiatives, we hit them hard. So when we talk about taking our dollars back and putting it back into our communities and being intentional about that, to make this message clear that we are not for what's going on in this current administration, because it's hurting us all. Kalamazoo County has made some significant strides. We talk about RX Kids, we talk about Ready Fours, and we've had unanimous votes on all of these entities. And if things keep going in the direction that they are, all of this can be stripped back from us in the next 5 to 6 years. So I want y'all to think about those things. When we talk about pluralism, when he said that, that is what our country was based on. Pluralism. It's in the Constitution. That was their thought process. And it's like the Bible. People pick and choose what they want to follow in the Bible and follow in the Constitution sometimes. So women, I want to speak directly to you. We're bosses, we're bullies, and we have the power of the purse at the end of the day, right? So I want us to start coming together and stomping strong on what we believe in, from what we eat at the store and what the ingredients that they're putting in to our bodies. and who can control that. So we have to reel some things in. When we look at what is going on in this administration from education, I just heard Rep. Longjohn said he's on a new committee. Budgets are being cut. We're looking at $880 billion to be cut from education. We're looking at $230 billion when we talk about SNAP benefits, when we talk about feeding our communities and coming through the essential needs. So it's one thing to come up here and play politics, but it's another thing to be about it. And I know this is not common ground what I'm talking about, and it could cost me my seat in 4 years, and I'm okay with that. But I want y'all to know what I am standing for and what I will not tolerate. And it's things like that. So with that, I think I'm good. And I want y'all to have a good night. Thank you all for our community service, our police folks, and everybody who protect us, because we are going to need it. And keep fighting the fight. Have a good night.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheeler.
Thanks, Chair. Once again, I don't know how I can ever follow you. You're amazing. Very, very excited about our transitional family housing and the closing on that hotel. So excited to see our housing department and get started on that, and we can help more folks. Again, thank you to Discover Kalamazoo and all your friends coming out and showing your support and giving us that information. It was lovely information. Really looking forward to hopefully getting this project over the finish line, because it's going to be huge for Kalamazoo. It's we talk about, you know, doing things within Kalamazoo County government that put us on the map, and I think this is one of the things that could put us on the map as well. So thanks.
Thank you. Is there any other items needed? All right, with that.